deep beneath the lands of southern India, long before humans walked the earth. The Kohinoor Diamond began its patient journey. Time in this subterranean world flowed differently, not in hours, days, or centuries, but in eons. Layers of molten rock pressed against one another, slowly shifting with forces so immense and gradual that no eye could perceive them. In a hidden chamber, a small cluster of carbon atoms began to align, responding to pressure and heat, forming the crystalline lattice that would eventually become the Kohinoor. The chamber was silent, except for the faint hum of geological movement. Tiny fractures healed themselves over millennia. Mineral-rich water trickled through cracks, depositing elements that would subtly enhance clarity. Temperature variations, measured over thousands of years, expanded and contracted the surrounding stone, refining the crystal into near perfection. Every atom aligned itself in harmony with invisible forces, crafting brilliance in darkness. Time above the earth was still young. Mountains and rivers had yet to form. The first hints of vegetation were far from appearing. Yet deep below, the diamond was alive in its own quiet way, absorbing the rhythm of the world it had yet to meet. Each millimeter of crystal grew patiently, adjusting imperceptibly to vibrations from shifts in the earth. Tiny tremors that polished its facets internally, preparing it to reflect light that would not shine upon it for millions of years. Rain, wind, and sunlight were still distant dreams, but water from underground seeped gently, interacting with the diamond in ways invisible yet transformative. Minochemical reactions enhanced the gem's clarity, while slow heat cycles strengthened its resilience. Tiny inclusions formed and healed, leaving behind marks that would one day tell the story of endurance. These were not flaws but signatures of survival through unimaginable pressure and heat. The diamond's brilliance, though unseen, was slowly emerging. Its internal facets aligned in ways that would scatter light with the utmost perfection, capturing sunlight, candlelight, or torchlight when it would finally reach the surface. Every subtle movement of the Earth's crust contributed to this refinement. The Kohinoor's journey was the patient artistry of time itself, sculpting beauty from darkness. As eons passed, tectonic forces nudged the diamond closer to the Earth's surface. Layers of rock above shifted ever so slightly, creating microchannels. Streams of mineral-rich water flowed through these channels, polishing the hidden gem and subtly influencing its crystalline structure. Though invisible, these interactions taught the diamond endurance, preparing it for the human hands that would one day touch it. Above ground, the world slowly began to awaken. Mountains rose and fell, rivers carved their paths, and clouds gathered to bring the first rains. Vegetation and primitive creatures began their silent emergence. Yet the diamond, buried in quiet darkness, responded only to subtle vibrations, temperature shifts, and mineral currents. Its facets, though unlit, were learning to reflect brilliance, storing the memory of time, pressure, and environmental energy. Millions of years passed. Volcanoes shifted surrounding layers, earthquakes caused imperceptible tremors, and the crystal continued to grow steadily. Water seeped through surrounding rock, leaving tiny mineral traces that strengthened clarity. The diamond endured heat and crushing pressure, perfecting its internal structure with every geological challenge. Even deep underground, subtle glimmers reached the diamond, Microcrystals on the chamber walls reflected the faintest light from subterranean minerals, creating interactions that honed the gem's internal brilliance. These reflections were tiny, almost invisible, yet each played a role in training the diamond to scatter light in a perfect spectrum when it would one day be revealed. The diamond's patient existence was a meditation in time. It did not hurry, nor did it complain under pressure. Its facets, carefully aligned over millennia, were prepared to refract light flawlessly. Tiny imperfections healed slowly, leaving only the perfect traces that would one day signify its journey through Earth's deepest forces. Eventually, subtle tectonic shifts brought the diamond closer to potential discovery. Sediment layers above shifted slightly, rivers began forming channels, and nature gradually prepared the surface world to meet the gem. Though unseen, the Kohinoor had already adapted to these minute changes, its internal lattice strengthening and adjusting to future light and human observation. Streams of water continued their patient polishing. Each drop carried minerals that altered the gem in microscopic ways. Heat from the Earth's interior expanded and contracted surrounding rock, subtly realigning facets. Every millimeter of the Kohinoor reflected millions of years of endurance, pressure, and slow, deliberate growth. Above the ground, early vegetation started to rout in the emerging soil. Primitive creatures moved across hills and plains. The rivers, not yet wide or deep, trickled through the landscape. And beneath it all, the Kohinoor remained hidden, its brilliance forming quietly in response to forces invisible, storing energy and structural memory for a future era of human hands and eyes. Its crystal lattice, under constant geological refinement, became resilient to extreme conditions. The diamond's clarity and refractive perfection were shaped by eons of unseen labor. It endured the slow rhythm of tectonic shifts, volcanic heat, water erosion, and mineral depositions. By the time the first humans would glimpse it, the Kohinoor would already be a masterpiece of natural patience and artistry. The diamond was alive in a geological sense. It absorbed vibrations, reacted to pressures, and endured heat. Tiny inclusions marked its long journey, testifying to resilience. Over eons, it became more than carbidate, became history crystallized. A silent witness to millennia of natural forces, waiting for its moment of human recognition. As the surface world continued evolving, clouds gathered, rain fell, and rivers deepened. Mountains rose, and valleys spread. The diamond, though still hidden, interacted subtly with these surface events. Its facets absorbed the slow pulse of nature, a rhythm of patience and quiet growth. This was the foundation of its legendary brilliance, an internal preparation for the time it would finally be revealed to humanity. The Kohinoor's early life was a masterclass in endurance. It learned to remain perfect under immense pressure, to store brilliance in darkness, and to exist harmoniously with forces far beyond comprehension. Its patience was infinite, its beauty emerging gradually from the slow, deliberate artistry of geological time. Even as millennia passed and countenance shifted, the diamond continued its quiet refinement. Water, heat, pressure, and mineral deposits worked together to create a gem of unparalleled clarity. Tiny imperfections formed and healed, polishing the facets, for the eventual encounter with kings, rulers, and collectors. Each atom became part of a carefully constructed masterpiece, waiting silently to become history. The chamber in which the Kohinoor rested was a sanctuary of time. Millennia of geological events sculpted every facet. Tremors polished its interior. Streams of mineral-rich water passed through hidden channels. Heats from the mantle and pressure from above strengthened it further. The diamond learned the rhythm of the earth, enduring all forces patiently, storing brilliance for a day far in the future when it would be discovered, admired, and desired. In its hidden world, the Kohinoor absorbed the quiet majesty of creation. Each tiny interaction with minerals, water, pressure, and heat was a step toward perfection. Though unseen, it was already brilliant, already enduring, already a silent witness to a world yet to awaken. It had survived millions of years in darkness, refining its facets, preparing to meet light, human hands, and human ambition. This was the first chapter of the Kohinoor's story on existence beneath the earth, hidden and perfect, enduring, resilient, and patient. Its brilliance, resilience, and quiet power were crafted not by human hands, but by the patient, deliberate forces of nature. The diamond waited, knowing that one day it would emerge to reflect sunlight, candlelight, human desire, and the ambitions of empires yet to rise. Millions of years had passed since the Kohinoor had begun its patient journey beneath the southern lands of India. Deep within the earth, its facets had aligned, its crystalline lattice perfected, and its brilliance quietly prepared for a world that had yet to recognize it. Then, one day in the distant past, the first human eyes glimpsed the hidden wealth of the land. These were not kings or rulers yet, but humble miners and laborers, exploring hills and riverbeds for the raw treasures of the earth. The first human contact with the diamond was not dramatic. There were no grand ceremonies, no royal court awaiting it. Instead, it was discovered quietly, within a dark cave where sunlight barely penetrated. Sweat dripped from the brows of laborers, their hands chipping away at layers of rock with simple stone tools. The diamond, buried for eons, rested calmly as human hands moved closer, brushing away the dirt and dust of millennia. The miners noticed a glimmer. At first, it was subtle, a faint reflection that caught in the dim light of their torches. As they uncovered more, the gem's facets reflected the flickering light, sending tiny rainbows across the cave walls. They did not yet understand the significance of what lay before them, but instinctively they recognized its rarity. Even in its rough form, the diamond was unlike anything they had seen, hard, translucent, and radiant. Life in the mines was arduous. Men worked tirelessly, their bodies strained by the labor of extracting minerals from stubborn rock. Water from underground streams flowed through the cave, sometimes flooding small chambers, sometimes trickling along fissures, carrying minerals that subtly polished hidden facets of the diamond over centuries. The Kohinoor, though now touched by human hands, continued its slow transformation, absorbing vibrations from tools striking stone, heat from torches, and the mineral-rich water flowing through the rock. The miners formed a small camp near the cave entrance. Fires burned to cook food, smoke curling into the cavernous openings. Nights were long, and in the quiet darkness, some laborers whispered stories of the shimmering stone hidden within the rocks. Superstitions arose. They believed the gem was not merely a rock, but a spirit of the earth, alive and watching. In these hushed tales, the Kohinoor became more than a mineral, it was a being of patience and ancient power, silently acknowledging the touch of the first humans. The diamond, however, remained untouched in its deepest form, uncut and unshaped. Its power was quiet, stored in the lattice formed over eons. Each facet, though rough, captured the faintest glimmers of torchlight, sending fleeting rainbows across the laborers' faces. Some miners were mesmerized, gazing for hours as the gem reflected subtle colors, a rainbow of patience and time compressed into a single crystal. The Kohinoor was beginning to weave itself into human consciousness, not as a tool, nor as currency, but as an object of wonder, a silent promise of beauty beyond imagination. As centuries passed, the knowledge of the diamond spread slowly. Traders, wanderers, and local chieftains began to hear rumors of a precious stone hidden in the hills. These tales were fragmented, carried from village to village like whispered legends. Some spoke of a gem that shone in darkness, others told of a stone that could withstand fire and water. Though exaggerated by imagination, these stories contained kernels of truth. The Kohinoor was not only real, it was enduring, resilient, and radiant. Early attempts to extract more gems from the surrounding rock were difficult. The stone was unyielding, requiring effort that taxed even the strongest laborers. Tools chipped, hands blistered, and sweat poured, yet the miners persisted. The Kohinoor, resting silently, absorbed these human struggles, each vibration subtly influencing its crystalline structure. Even as human hands struck stone around it, the diamond remained patient, enduring every touch and pressure without losing its inherent brilliance. The first human contact also marked the beginning of the diamond's social journey. Village leaders, recognizing its rarity, began to claim portions of the land where the gem was found. The diamond, though hidden, became a symbol of status and power among local communities. Those who controlled access to the cave and its treasures gained influence, their voices carrying further in the surrounding hills and valleys. In this way, the Kohinoor's first human interactions were already political, setting the stage for its journey into the courts of kings and emperors. By this time, small rituals had formed around the diamond. Miners left offerings of food or water at the cave entrance. Not fully understanding why, but guided by instinct and respect for what they perceived as a powerful presence. The Kohinoor, patient as ever, did not need acknowledgement. Yet it seemed to respond subtly, reflecting torchlight in a more intense shimmer on nights when the offerings were made. Over decades, these interactions became part of local legend, stories passed down from one generation to the next, embedding the diamond into the cultural consciousness long before it would reach royal hands. Eventually, the diamond's rough brilliance caught the attention of local rulers. Small kingdoms and chieftains sent emissaries to investigate the tales whispered by miners. The Kohinoor, previously known only to laborers, was now poised to enter the world of political power. Its presence inspired awe and careful planning how to possess it, protect it, and perhaps to use it as a symbol of influence. For the first time, The diamond was not just a natural wonder, but a potential tool of human ambition. These early rulers, unfamiliar with cutting techniques, could not fully realize the diamond's potential. It remained uncut, its facets rough, yet even in this form, it radiated power. Advisors debated whether to leave it untouched, fearing that any mistake could destroy its brilliance, while others argued for carving it into a jewel to display wealth and authority. In the quiet of these early courts, the Kohinoor became more than stone. It was a decision, a presence that shaped human thought, strategy, and desire. Meanwhile, the miners continued their work, extracting other minerals and occasionally glimpsing the gem's hidden beauty. They did not know that the Kohinoor had endured millions of years beneath the earth, that each vibration, each heat cycle, and each mineral flow had crafted its perfect internal lattice. To them, it was a rare treasure, but to time itself, it was a masterpiece of patience, waiting for the moment it would shine in sunlight. In the hands of kings, and in the imagination of future civilizations. The Kohinoor's early human interactions were subtle, almost imperceptible in the grand scale of history, yet they were foundational. Every touch, every glance, and every whispered story contributed to its eventual legacy. The diamond, though patient and silent, absorbed these experiences, storing memory in its facets, preparing for a future where its brilliance would command attention not just locally, but globally. These first centuries of human contact were also marked by learning. Laborers discovered the durability and hardness of the stone. They experimented with tools, trying to shape or extract portions, yet the diamond resisted. Its perfect lattice, formed under eons of pressure, made it nearly indestructible. Each failed attempt was a testament to the Kohinoor's enduring strength, reinforcing the notion that this was no ordinary gem, but something beyond ordinary understanding. Legends formed rapidly. Miners told tales of the stone that could cut through any material, that could survive fire, and that could reflect light even in complete darkness. These tales were embellished, but they carried truth. The Kohinoor's resilience and brilliance were unparalleled. Its reputation spread, slowly reaching traders, pilgrims, and wandering scholars who would carry the stories to neighboring regions, planting seeds of awe and desire that would grow over centuries. By the end of this early period, the Kohinoor had already begun its transition from natural wonder to object of human aspiration. Hidden deep in the earth, yet known to the first human witnesses, it had begun its journey into legend. Laborers, local rulers, and early miners all played their part in acknowledging its existence, even if they could not yet grasp its full significance. The diamond's quiet endurance, its subtle interactions with humans, and the first whispers of legend were the beginning of a long story that would span kingdoms, empires, and continents. It had endured millions of years underground, and now, under the first human gaze, it prepared for a life of admiration, conflict, and historical prominence. Its facets, though rough, reflected the first light of human curiosity, and in those reflections, the Kohinoor silently promised the brilliance and power it would one day bestow upon kings, rulers, and civilizations. As whispers of the precious stone traveled through villages and hills, the Kohinoor's hidden presence began to stir the ambitions of local kings. Unlike the miners who had first discovered it, these rulers were men of ceremony, strategy, and display. They had never touched the diamond, yet its story reached their courts through traders, travelers, and wandering scholars. Each tale emphasized the gem's brilliance, durability, and rarity, a natural wonder said to command attention and inspire reverence. In the dimly lit chambers of regional palaces, advisors spoke in hushed tones about the mysterious gem. Maps were drawn, hills and riverbeds marked, and emissaries prepared for journeys to uncover the treasure. The kings listened intently, intrigued not merely by the stone itself, but by the symbolic power it could bestow. In these early interactions, the Kohinoor's human story began to entwine with politics, ambition, and legacy. The terrain surrounding the gem was rugged, a labyrinth of rocky outcrops and hidden streams. Laborers familiar with the area guided the emissaries, leading them to narrow caves where only the faintest light penetrated. The first glimpse of the diamond through torchlight left even seasoned men in awe. Its rough facets reflected a spectrum of colors, dancing along the walls like silent flames. The Kohinoor, though uncut, seemed to acknowledge its new audience, revealing brilliance in careful, measured flashes. Rulers recognized that such a gem could enhance their prestige. In courts adorned with carved wood, polished stone, and flowing silk, the Kohinoor became a symbol of authority, not just wealth. It represented mastery over nature itself, a possession that could distinguish one king from another. Advisors debated the logistics of acquisition, how to ensure the stone's safety, how to transport it through narrow mountain paths, and how to integrate it into the regal display without diminishing its inherent value. The process of acquiring the diamond required strategy. Rival chieftains also caught wind of the tales, eager to claim the gem for themselves. Negotiations, secret alliances, and subtle threats marked the early politics surrounding the Kohinoor. Every step required careful planning. One miscalculation could lead to conflict, loss, or even bloodshed. In this stage, the diamond was no longer merely a mineral, it had become a catalyst for human ambition, a silent agent in the unfolding drama of power. Once the gem was secured, its presence influenced courtly life. Ceremonies were adapted to showcase it. Special chambers were built to protect it while allowing glimpses to distinguished guests. Torches illuminated its facets during feasts, sending reflections across walls, ceilings, and the faces of courtiers. Musicians played softly, and poets whispered verses inspired by the diamond's quiet brilliance. Even before being cut or polished, the Kohinoor's influence permeated the palace, subtly shaping the rituals and moods of those who came near it. The kings themselves began to imbue the stone with mythic qualities. It was said to bring protection, prosperity, and legitimacy. Advisors cautioned that such power came with responsibility, warning of greed, envy, and the dangers of human folly. Yet the allure of possessing something so extraordinary was irresistible. For a king, the Kohinoor was not merely a jewel, it was a declaration of sovereignty, a statement that his realm was worthy of the earth's rarest gift. As the gem moved from the hands of miners to royal custody, it encountered a new layer of refinement, not physical, but social and political. Its story became entwined with the ambitions of rulers, the strategies of advisors, and the aspirations of entire communities. Each courtly event, featuring the Kohinoor, reinforced its status as a symbol of power and prestige. It inspired not only admiration, but careful calculation, for every gaze upon its facets carried unspoken questions. Who should possess such beauty? Who could wield its symbolic weight wisely? Even in its rough state, the diamond's presence transformed lives. Miners who once toiled unnoticed became guides and witnesses to history. Courtiers crafted stories and rituals around the gem, ensuring that its brilliance would be remembered long before it was physically altered. Local bards composed songs celebrating its discovery, while craftsmen envisioned settings and ornaments that might one day display its light. The Kohinoor, though silent, was now an active participant in human imagination, influencing culture, politics, and social hierarchy. Transporting the diamond from hidden caves to the palace was an ordeal. Narrow passes, dense forests, and hidden streams challenged every effort. Ropes, baskets, and human endurance were tested as the gem moved slowly, guarded at every step. The diamond itself, once isolated for millions of years, now experienced movement, pressure, and light in ways it had never known. Each step, each careful placement, became part of its ongoing journey, a transformation from natural wonder to human treasure. Once in the king's chambers, the Kohinoor's story deepened. Its facets caught the morning sun through palace windows, casting subtle reflections across walls, floors, and columns. Courtiers observed in quiet reverence, noting the gem's unique ability to refract light. Even rough and unpolished, the diamond commanded attention and respect. Kings realized that such a stone could not be hidden away indefinitely. Its power was amplified when seen, celebrated, and integrated into the rituals of rulership. Over time, the Kohinoor's presence altered court dynamics. Rivalries intensified, alliances shifted, and subtle negotiations revolved around its custody. Advisors debated which ceremonies should feature it, which guests could witness it, and how its brilliance could be preserved. Every interaction, every glance, reinforced the gem's symbolic weight. It was no longer a hidden stone in a cave. It had become a central actor in the human theater of power, prestige, and cultural expression. Legends grew around the king who first held it. Stories circulated of a ruler whose authority seemed magnified by the gem, of victories won in battle seemingly with the diamond's favor, and of advisors who interpreted its subtle reflections as omens. These tales, half imagination and half observation, solidified the Kohinoor's role as a jewel of destiny, a stone whose influence extended far beyond its physical presence. The diamond, patient as always, remained indifferent to human ambition. Yet it absorbed every interaction, every vibration, and every decision made in its presence. It endured the weight of expectation, the pressures of transport, and the flickering torchlight of ceremonial halls. Its brilliance, though uncut, responded subtly to these experiences, preparing it for a future where careful cutting, polishing, and mounting would reveal its full potential. In the quiet hours of the night, when the palace rested and only moonlight entered the chambers, the Kohinoor seemed to exude a calm energy. Its facets captured the faintest illumination, scattering it in delicate patterns across walls and floors. Servants whispered of dreams inspired by the gem, and guards swore they could feel a subtle presence watching over the palace. the diamond's influence, though invisible, had begun to extend into the spiritual and emotional lives of those near it. Thus, the Kohinoor's first journey through human hands was complete. From hidden caves to royal chambers, from humble laborers to ambitious kings, the diamond had begun to weave itself into the fabric of society. Its story was no longer purely geological. It had become cultural, political, and symbolic. Each interaction, each careful transport, and each ceremonial display added layers to its narrative, preparing the Kohinoor for the centuries of history, empire, and intrigue that lay ahead. Even now, uncut and raw, the diamond taught a subtle lesson. Patience endures, brilliance is cultivated slowly, and true power lies not merely in possession, but in understanding and respect. The kings who held it would learn, over time, that the Kohinoor was more than a jewel. It was history crystallized, waiting to reflect not only light, but the aspirations, fears, and ambitions of all who encountered it. As centuries unfolded, the Kohinoor Diamond moved beyond the modest courts of local kings. Its brilliance began to enter the grand stage of India's early empires, where kingdoms spanned vast territories and rulers commanded armies in hundreds of thousands. The gem, though still uncut, became a silent participant in the complex theater of power, diplomacy, and culture. The first emperors to encounter the Kohinoor were men of ambition and vision. They understood that beyond the wealth of gold, silver, and land, certain treasures held unique symbolic power. The diamond represented the mastery of nature itself, a rare object that could elevate a ruler's prestige above rivals. Tales of its discovery by miners, its transport through rugged terrain, and its first appearances in local courts had already reached the ears of these emperors through messengers, travelers, and traders. Within imperial palaces, the Kohinoor was treated with extraordinary care. Chambers were constructed to protect it from humidity, sunlight, and human negligence. Guards were assigned solely to oversee its safety, and artisans studied its facets carefully, envisioning the day it might be cut and set into ceremonial ornaments. Even in its rough state, the gem inspired awe. Its internal reflections captured sunlight that filtered through palace windows, scattering delicate rainbows across marble floors and intricately carved walls. The diamond began to play a central role in ceremonies of empire. During coronations, festivals, and diplomatic receptions, the Kohinoor was displayed to emissaries and visiting dignitaries. Its presence conveyed authority, wealth, and divine favor. Rulers believed that holding such a gem was more than a matter of prestige. It was a sign that their reign was sanctioned by destiny itself. Advisors suggested its placement on thrones, in scepters, or on ceremonial crowns. Each proposal carefully considered to maximize both security and visibility. Military campaigns also reflected the gem's growing importance. Generals carried knowledge of the Kohinoor in their dispatches, and soldiers understood that the diamond was intertwined with the legitimacy of their sovereign, though never part of the battlefield directly. Its symbolic presence motivated armies and reminded adversaries of the ruler's immense wealth and influence. Stories began circulating that the gem brought fortune to the victorious and misfortune to those who sought it, through force of belief that would later evolve into legends of the Kohinoor's curse. In courtly life, the Kohinoor inspired poetry, music, and art. Poets composed verses celebrating its brilliance, comparing its clarity to the purity of the emperor's heart, or the divine radiance of the heavens. Painters attempted to capture its shimmer on canvas, though no brush could fully replicate the play of light across its facets. Musicians composed gentle melodies performed during ceremonies where the diamond was displayed, each note designed to reflect the gem's quiet majesty. Through these cultural expressions, the Kohinoor began to leave an imprint not only on politics, but on the very soul of the empire. Trade routes enhanced the diamond's renown. Merchants and travelers, moving between cities and kingdoms, spoke of a jewel that shone with light unlike any other. Some exaggerated its size and beauty, others offered careful observations of its resilience and clarity. These accounts spread, forming a tapestry of myth and fact, intertwining the Kohinoor with the growing consciousness of empire. By the time it reached the most distant provinces, even people who had never seen it knew of its name and significance. The diamond also affected the balance of power within the empire. Factions emerged in court. Those who wished to use the gem as a diplomatic gift, those who preferred it remain a symbol of internal authority, and those who believed it should inspire artisans to create magnificent objects that would endure through generations. The Kohinoor, silent yet present, shaped human decisions, guiding rulers, advisors, and artists alike. Every placement, every exhibition, and every display reinforced its emerging identity as more than a gem. It had become a cornerstone of empire. Despite the grandeur of imperial life, the diamond remained fundamentally patient. Centuries underground had instilled a resilience that human ambition could not disturb. Even as it traveled from palace to palace, from chamber to chamber, it preserved its structural integrity. Torches, sunlight, and human handling brushed against it. Yet the Kohinoor endured, its internal brilliance slowly preparing for the eventual moment when it would be carefully cut and polished to reveal its full radiance. During times of celebration, the diamond's influence was subtle but unmistakable. Courtiers reported that the Kohinoor seemed to respond to attention, scattering light more vividly when viewed with reverence and careful observation. Rituals incorporated gestures toward the gem, songs and poetry highlighted its presence, and emissaries were reminded that the diamond was a silent arbiter of prestige. Even emperors, powerful as they were, recognized that the Kohinoor's value was as much symbolic as it was material. The diamond also played a role in imperial diplomacy. When neighboring kingdoms sent envoys, the Kohinoor was often displayed to emphasize the wealth and sophistication of the ruler. Gifts, treaties, and alliances were subtly reinforced through the gem's presence. Its influence extended beyond simple admiration. It shaped decisions, inspired caution, and commanded respect. The Kohinoor had entered a new phase of its existence, one in which light, power, and human ambition converged. As centuries unfolded within the empire, the Kohinoor became a witness to history. Battles were fought, empires expanded and contracted, and dynasties rose and fell. Through it all, the diamond remained unchanged, enduring each upheaval with quiet majesty. Its facets absorbed the energy of political maneuvering, the vibrations of courtly celebrations, and the whispers of poets and artisans alike. The gem's journey had shifted from the geological to the humana slow, deliberate unfolding that intertwined the natural brilliance of the diamond with the ambitions, fears, and desires of an entire civilization. Even as rulers aged and empires transformed, the Kohinoor remained a constant. It was a silent participant in councils of state, observed by advisors, cherished by monarchs, and revered by artists. Its uncut surfaces caught the first morning light through palace windows, reflecting not only color and brilliance, but also the legacy of endurance, resilience, and patience. The diamond, now embedded deeply in human consciousness, had become a symbol of continuity and authority, linking the fleeting lives of mortals with the permanence of nature itself. By the end of this period, the Kohinoor had achieved something extraordinary. It had moved from hidden caves into the heart of empire, from obscurity into the sphere of legend. Its presence had shaped human culture, politics, art, and ceremony. Even without being cut or polished, it influenced rulers and subjects alike. The diamond had become an object of desire, a jewel of destiny, a participant in the unfolding history of India's early empires, silent observer, an influencer of human ambition and civilization. By the time the Mughals rose to power in India, the Kohinoor had already begun to accumulate a reputation that transcended mere material value. Tales of its discovery, its brilliance, and its symbolic potency had spread across kingdoms, whispering into the ears of rulers and advisors alike. In the opulent courts of the Mughal emperors, where silk banners fluttered and gold gleamed in every chamber, the diamond's story found fertile ground to intertwine with ambition, artistry, and imperial grandeur. The first Mughal emperor to encounter the Kohinoor recognized its potential immediately. Unlike earlier rulers, he understood not just the stone's symbolic authority but its role as a tool of diplomacy and prestige. Advisors suggested embedding the gem in a crown, a ceremonial sword, or even in the intricate jewelry collections of the harem. Its uncut brilliance, though raw, was enough to inspire awe among courtiers and visiting emissaries, who had traveled from distant lands to witness the emperor's wealth. In the palaces of Delhi and Agra, the diamond became part of daily life and ritual. Torches, oil lamps, and sunlight filtered through intricately carved jarakas, casting the gem's light across marble floors, mosaic walls, and silk draperies. Courtiers whispered that the Kohinoor seemed almost alive, scattering rainbows when viewed with reverence, while reflecting a softer glow when approached carelessly. The diamond's presence demanded respect, and even the most confident advisors and generals treated it with a kind of quiet awe. The Mughal emperors were known for their fascination with artistry and craftsmanship. Jewelers, metalsmiths, and artisans were summoned to design intricate settings, daggers, and crowns that could hold the Kohinoor securely while allowing its brilliance to shine. The diamond, still uncut, became a centerpiece of creative exploration. Craftsmen studied the way light danced across its facets, envisioning how careful cutting and polishing might one day reveal a brilliance that would surpass every other gem in history. Political intrigue also surrounded the Kohinoor during this era. Rival factions within the court, ambitious generals, and distant princes all sought to claim proximity to the gem. Its presence was more than ornamentation. It was a symbol of legitimacy and divine favor. Emperors realized that to display the Kohinoor was to signal authority not only to their own subjects, but to neighboring kingdoms. Ambassadors and envoys, upon witnessing the diamond's majesty, were reminded that power could be measured in light and brilliance as much as in armies and fortresses. The diamond also traveled during times of military campaigns. When armies marched, the Kohinoor was carefully transported in protective cases, accompanied by trusted attendants who ensured its safety. In the camps, soldiers whispered stories of the stone's history and supposed mystical qualities. It was said that the diamond brought fortune to the just and misfortune too. Those who sought it through treachery belief that slowly became part of the mythology surrounding the gem. Beyond politics and warfare, the Kohinoor inspired literature and art. Poets composed verses describing its inner fire, likening it to the radiance of the sun or the clarity of a serene river. Painters attempted to capture the gem on miniature canvases, while calligraphers included its legend in illuminated manuscripts. Its influence extended beyond the visual. Musicians composed soft melodies intended to accompany ceremonies where the diamond was displayed, creating a symphony of reverence, sound, and light. Trade and diplomacy expanded the diamond's fame. Merchants traveling from Persia, the Deccan, and Central Asia reported stories of a gem of extraordinary power and brilliance. Traders embellished these tales, adding mystique and allure. As the Kohinoor's renown grew, it became more than an object of wealth. It was a symbol of imperial identity, an emblem of authority that conveyed both the cultural sophistication and the political might of the Mughal Empire. Even as it moved through these grand settings, the diamond remained fundamentally patient. Its millions of years of formation underground had taught endurance. It withstood the heat of the sun, the flicker of torches, and the careful handling of countless human hands. The Kohinoor seemed to absorb not only light, but the energy of ambition, reverence, and human desire, preparing for the moment when it would be meticulously cut and polished to reveal its ultimate brilliance. Stories of theft, loss, and intrigue began to surround the diamond during the Mughal era. Rivals plotted to seize it, foreign emissaries inquired about it, and even trusted courtiers occasionally conspired for a chance to hold it. Yet the Kohinoor survived each challenge. Its internal lattice, forged under immense natural pressure, rendered it nearly indestructible. Every attempt to damage, misplace, or misuse it only served to enhance its mystique. The diamond became more than a gem. It was a lesson in patience, resilience, and subtle influence. Emperors who possessed it understood that its true power lay not in mere possession, but in how it was displayed, revered, and integrated into the life of the court. The Kohinoor's ability to reflect light, to inspire awe, and to command respect became intertwined with the ambitions of one of the most powerful empires in Indian history. Over time, the Kohinoor inspired a new layer of myth. Courtiers whispered that it could confer legitimacy to rulers, that its brilliance was a sign of divine favor, and that any mistreatment could invite misfortune. These legends, though partly imagined, reflected a deeper truth. The diamond had become inseparable from the human stories surrounding it. Its journey had shifted from geological endurance to cultural, political, and symbolic significance. Even in moments of quiet, the Kohinoor left its mark. In private chambers, under moonlight streaming through lattice windows, its facets scattered soft rainbows on the walls. Servants reported dreams inspired by the gem, while poets and musicians used it as a muse. The diamond's presence was subtle but undeniable, influencing the rhythms, moods, and stories of the Mughal court. By the end of this era, the Kohinoor had achieved legendary status. From hidden caves to imperial chambers, from miners' hands to the palaces of emperors, its journey reflected both patience and brilliance. The diamond had become an enduring symbol of power, a participant in the human theater of politics, art, and ceremony. Though still uncut, it had woven itself into the fabric of history, ready for the next phase of its story, a phase that would involve conquest, transfer, and even greater global recognition. The Kohinoor, patient and eternal, had proven one essential truth: that brilliance, whether of gem or spirit, grows slowly, endures challenges, and shines most brightly when it encounters the gaze of those who understand its true worth. The Kohinoor's journey through India took a dramatic turn with the rise of the Sikh Empire in the early 19th century. For centuries, the diamond had symbolized power, prestige, and divine favor within the courts of emperors. But under Maharaja Ranjit Singh, it became a central emblem of sovereignty, military might, and political strategy. The gem, already renowned across the subcontinent, now assumed a role that would propel it into the gaze of the global stage. Ranjit Singh, known as the Lion of Punjab, was a ruler who understood symbols. His court was a blend of military discipline, artistic patronage, and political acumen. When the Kohinoor arrived in his possession, it was more than a jewel, it was a token of authority. A declaration that his empire rivaled any in India. The diamond was displayed during court ceremonies, military parades, and diplomatic receptions, its facets reflecting sunlight and torchlight alike, casting subtle rainbows across silk banners and marble floors. The gem's presence within the Sikh treasury carried immense strategic significance. Ranjit Singh used it to negotiate alliances, impress visiting dignitaries, and consolidate loyalty among generals. Soldiers in his army were aware of the diamond's symbolism. It was said to embody the courage, endurance, and unity of the empire. In times of both celebration and tension, the Kohinoor silently reinforced the ruler's legitimacy, a quiet yet potent influence over the complex dynamics of governance and warfare. However, the peace of Punjab was not eternal. The British East India Company, expanding aggressively across India, had long heard of the Kohinoor's legend. Tales of its brilliance, size, and historical significance reached the ears of British officials, who recognized that possession of the diamond would not only enhance imperial prestige, but also serve as a potent symbol of dominance over a powerful Indian kingdom. Negotiations, demands, and eventual military confrontation marked the beginning of a new chapter in the diamond's long history. As tensions escalated, the diamond's role shifted from ceremonial brilliance to strategic leverage. The Kohinoor, once a quiet observer of imperial courts, now became a pawn in a larger game of empire and conquest. Advisors to Maharaja Ranjit Singh debated fiercely over how to safeguard it. Could it be hidden? Could it be moved secretly? Or should its presence continue to assert power in the capital while the empire prepared for British advances? The diamond, patient as always, endured each human calculation without losing any measure of its brilliance. When conflict finally arrived, the diamond became entwined with military and political maneuvering. Treaties were signed under the shadow of its legend. The British, aware of the psychological and symbolic power of the Kohinoor, demanded it as part of the settlement after the Anglo-Sikh Wars. For the Sikhs, Handing over the gem was more than a material loss, it was a profound shift in sovereignty. A symbolic surrender that resonated far beyond the treasury vaults where the diamond had rested for generations. On the day it was handed over, the Kohinoor moved once again, crossing the threshold from Indian empires into global history. British officials marveled at its clarity and size, noting how its uncut brilliance seemed to outshine every other gem they had encountered. The diamond, silent and patient, had traversed countless kingdoms, witnessed ambition, war, and diplomacy, and now found itself in the possession of a foreign power whose reach extended across continents. Even as it entered British hands, the Kohinoor's legend continued to grow. Soldiers whispered about its mystical influence, courtiers speculated about curses and blessings, and chroniclers documented its journey in careful detail. The diamond had shifted from a regional emblem to a global symbol, embodying not only wealth and beauty but also the complex interplay of power, conquest, and human desire. In Britain, the Kohinoor was displayed to royalty, examined by gemologists, and eventually integrated into the crown jewels. Its journey, shaped over millennia, had now become part of international history. Yet, despite the grandeur of its new surroundings, the diamond remained fundamentally unchanged. Its facets formed over millions of years, absorbed light, energy, and human attention, remaining as resilient and patient as ever. The Sikh Empire, though transformed by the loss of the Kohinoor, left behind a legacy intertwined with the diamond. Stories of valor, wisdom, and diplomacy became inseparable from the gem's history. Scholars, poets, and travelers documented the tales, ensuring that even as the diamond moved across oceans, its origins and cultural significance within India would not be forgotten. Through all these transitions, the Kohinoor continued to teach subtle lessons. Patience, endurance, and silent influence were its constant qualities. It endured earthquakes, wars, negotiations, and crossings between empires. Yet its brilliance remained intact. Each human interaction, whether reverent or coercive, became a part of the diamond's story, embedding layers of history into its facets that would inspire awe for generations to come. The British arrival marked not the end, but another evolution in the diamond's long journey. From the hidden caves of southern India to the opulent courts of emperors, and now to the halls of foreign royalty, the Kohinoor had transformed from a geological wonder into a cultural and political icon. Its story reflected the ambitions, conflicts, and aspirations of centuries, a testament to the enduring power of nature refined by human attention, reverence, and desire. In the quiet corridors of modern history, the Kohinoor entered a new era, one not defined by battles or royal courts, but by controversy, diplomacy, and global fascination. Unlike its ancient chapters, filled with the roar of empires and shifting thrones, this new phase unfolded through calm conversations, historical reflections, and the gentle hum of museums visited by millions from around the world. The diamond, now resting far from the warm lands where it was born, became a centerpiece of discussion. Nations debated its rightful home, scholars analyzed its past, and visitors stared in silence, each carrying their own interpretation of what the gem truly represented. For some, the Kohinoor symbolized beauty, for others, loss, and for many, a long chain of human stories embedded like invisible threads within its enduring brilliance. As the world grew interconnected, memories of colonial history resurfaced more clearly. India, Pakistan, Iran, and Afghanistan, each of these nations connected deeply to the diamonds. Journey began to voice their claims, not through conflict, but through formal requests, cultural discussions, and peaceful dialogue. Government officials drafted statements, historians weighed evidence, and the public engaged in thoughtful debate. It was as though the diamond, silent for centuries, had begun speaking through the voices of millions. For the first time in history, the Kohinoor became more than a royal ornament. It evolved into a symbol of collective memory, awakening conversations about heritage, identity, and justice. The calm atmosphere of modern diplomacy contrasted sharply with the stormy environments through which the diamond had previously traveled. Instead of battles, there were conferences. Instead of warriors, there were lawyers and historians. Instead of conquest, there was conversation. In museums where soft lights fell gently on glass cases, the Kohinoor's radiance appeared softer too, less the display of domination, and more a quiet window into a shared, interconnected human past. Visitors from dozens of countries stood before it, whispering about its origins, its journey, and the empires that once treasured it. Couples leaned close, parents explained its legend to children, and elderly travelers paused thoughtfully, remembering stories heard many decades earlier. Meanwhile, academic circles devoted entire seminars and publications to the gem. Researchers pored over documents, piecing together ancient references, trade routes, and shifting political landscapes. The Kohinoor's path through time became clearer than ever before, each era defined by different values, spirituality, wealth, conquest, pride, diplomacy. The diamond seemed to have absorbed the essence of every age it had passed through, its brilliance steady even as the world transformed around it. Yet the controversy surrounding its ownership remained gentle but persistent. India emphasized its historical origin, connecting the gem to centuries of cultural and spiritual tradition. Pakistan highlighted the era of the Sikh Empire and the political circumstances surrounding its removal. Afghanistan pointed to the gem's earlier passage through its own territories. Iran remembered even more ancient dynasties, claiming ties that stretched back to the earliest chapters of the diamond's known history. All these voices blended into a quiet global conversation, one without violence, one shaped by memory, longing, and respect for the past. The Kohinoor's presence created an unexpected form of unity. Nations with differing perspectives were linked through shared fascination for a stone that had, at various points, touched each of their histories. In Britain, the debate was met with reflection. Some defended the diamond's place in the crown jewels as part of a long and complex timeline. Others acknowledged that objects with such deep cultural significance could stir powerful emotions. Museums began rethinking the meaning of ownership and the importance of shared global heritage. The Kohinoor, resting under calm display lights, subtly influenced these discussions, its quiet luminosity encouraging people to think more deeply about the past. Over time, documentaries, books, and global exhibitions dedicated to the Kohinoor drew unprecedented attention. Artists painted it, filmmakers recreated its long journey, and educators introduced its story to younger generations. The diamond became not just a historical artifact, but a gentle reminder of the interconnectedness of civilizations. Its story offered lessons about ambition, endurance, and the ways in which human desire can shape the destiny of even the smallest object. Across the world, countless people who had never seen the gem in person felt drawn to its story. They imagined the mines where it first formed in darkness, the hands that held it, the caravans that carried it, and the palaces where it once glimmered under oil lamps and moonlight. In this way, the Kohinoor transcended physical boundaries. It became part of a collective imagination, a shared dream that drifted quietly across continents. Even as debates continued, the diamond remained as serene as ever. Untouched by the emotions it stirred, its smooth fasts had witnessed ancient dynasties, violent transitions, royal ceremonies, and now the polite conversations of diplomatic language. Through every transformation, the gem remained constant moved, unchanging, infinitely patient. The modern age brought something new, recognition. The Kohinoor was no longer just one of the world's great diamonds. It became an icon of global history, a monument of memory reflected through centuries of human experience. Whether admired for its beauty, discussed for its political legacy, or questioned for its journey across empires, the diamond continued to invite reflection, curiosity, and contemplation. And through all this, the Kohinoor rested in quiet illumination, still glowing with the soft, steady light that had enchanted rulers, travelers, scholars, and dreamers for thousands of years. In the present day, its story was far from over, but the world had learned to approach it with gentleness, respect, and an understanding that some treasures are far more than the sparkle they display. Long after the storms of conquest and the dust of empires had settled, the Kohinoor entered an age unlike any it had ever known, a life of stillness. No more hurried journeys across deserts, no more anxious whispers in palace corridors, no more decisions made by kings who trembled at its legend. Instead, the diamond found itself in a world of quiet halls, polished glass, and curious eyes that observed it not with fear, but with wonder. Placed within the British crown jewels, the gem became part of a tradition that stretched across centuries, yet felt distinctly different from the turbulent history it had known. The vaults where the jewels were stored were cool and silent, illuminated by controlled lights that fell like gentle moonbeams across the polished surfaces. For the first time in its long existence, the Kohinoor lived a life free from danger. Its journey had become peaceful. During public exhibitions, visitors moved slowly past the diamond, their footsteps soft on museum floors. Many knew the stories surrounding the gem. Others had only heard fragments. Some simply paused, drawn by its glow, as though its light held the remnants of forgotten eras. In the hush of the exhibition hall, the Kohinoor became a silent storyteller, its brilliance carrying traces of ancient mountains, long-lost dynasties, and distant lands. The glass that protected it stood like a barrier between ages on one side, modern life with its fast-moving rhythms. On the other, the timeless calm of the diamond that had witnessed civilizations rise and fall. People leaned close, studying every facet, every reflection. Under the soft lights, the gem's edges gleamed like frozen stars, as if tiny constellations had been captured and sealed within it. Museum curators treated the diamond with extreme care, measuring humidity, temperature, and even vibration. They saw it not just as a symbol of royalty, but as an artifact of global heritage. Every movement was slow, deliberate, respectful. The Kohinoor, once passed roughly between conquerors, now rested like a fragile heirloom, guarded by protocols rather than swords. Occasionally, the diamond was brought out for ceremonial use in the British monarchy. During these moments, the gem glimmered atop ornate crowns worn during coronations or important state events. Cameras flashed, historians spoke, and millions watched from afar. Yet despite all the attention, the Kohinoor remained serenely still, glowing softly under the careful lights of modern institutions. There was something almost meditative about the gem's new life. Unlike its past, filled with restless movement, its present was defined by stillness. It seemed to float in time, untouched by the rush of the outside world. Visitors often described an odd sensation when standing before it, not excitement, but calm curiosity, a gentle pause in the noise of life. The Kohinoor, in its quiet way, helped people slow down. For school children visiting museums, the diamond became a doorway to history. They pressed their hands to the glass barrier, eyes wide, listening to guides explain its journey across kingdoms and continents. Though they couldn't touch the gem, many felt they were standing before a piece of living time. The Kohinoor's silent glow offered a glimpse into a past far older than anything their textbooks could express. As decades passed, the diamond became a symbol of continuity. In a fast-changing world, it remained the same calm, patient, ancient. Travelers crossed oceans to see it, scholars wrote essays about it, and artists sketched it with care. Each person who encountered the gem carried away a different impression. Some saw beauty, others saw sorrow. Many saw history resting quietly behind glass. The diamond itself did not change. It had no need to. After surviving centuries of turmoil, it embraced the peace of the museum with quiet dignity. In that serene environment, it discovered something new: permanence. Its story was no longer being shaped by war or ambition, but by reflection, memory, and the gentle curiosity of the modern world. In this quiet phase of its life, the Kohinoor became a soft Bikona reminder that even objects born in darkness and shaped by conflict can eventually find rest. Its light no longer declared victory or power. Instead, it whispered of time, endurance, and the slow, steady passing of centuries. It rested in silence, but the silence was full of stories. And in that calm, hushed world of velvet-lined cases and careful lighting, the Kohinoor began its longest chapter. Yet not a tale of conquest, but a tale of stillness, where its only task was to shine softly and let the world remember. As the world stepped deeper into the age of diplomacy, the Kohinoor found itself woven into a new kind of conversation, one shaped not by kings or conquerors, but by legal experts, historians, and nations seeking recognition for their shared past. The diamond, once carried through war-torn landscapes, now traveled quietly through documents, deliberations, and global discussions. In conference halls bathed in gentle light, scholars and diplomats sat around polished wooden tables, unfolding maps, reviewing centuries-old records, and tracing the delicate threads of the diamond's long journey. The discussions were calm, measured, and thoughtful. Voices remained low. Pens flowed slowly over paper. No swords were drawn, no banners unfurled. It was a new kind of Arenowan, where the Kohinoor's legacy was handled with patience and respect. India presented its case with deep pride, pointing to the diamond's origins in the ancient mines of the Deccan. The claim was not simply about possession, but about cultural memory. An acknowledgement that the gem had been part of the subcontinent's history long before colonial times. Pakistan highlighted the events surrounding the Sikh Empire and the political complexities that shaped the diamond's transfer. Afghanistan spoke of an even earlier chapter, where the diamond passed through its lands during the rise and fall of regional powers. Iran reached further back into antiquity, invoking the stories of early dynasties and cultural ties that lingered in manuscripts and traditions. Each nation's claim carried its own emotions, some soft, some intense, but all rooted in a shared recognition that the Kohinoor was more than a stone. It was a vessel of memory, containing silent echoes of different civilizations. Yet despite the complexity, the tone remained calm. The modern world had learned to talk before it fought, and in the case of the Kohinoor, talking seemed the only path forward. International legal bodies examined the matter carefully. The diamond's transfer happened during a time when global legal standards were very different from today. Modern experts debated treaties, signatures, declarations, and historical context. Lawyers spoke of ownership, historians spoke of heritage, and anthropologists spoke of shared cultural identity. Each perspective added a new layer to the discussion, like gentle brushstrokes on a vast, ancient canvas. Meanwhile, the public followed the conversation with quiet fascination. Newspapers published thoughtful articles. Documentaries captured the slow rhythm of diplomatic exchange. Online discussions grew lively but remained respectful. People across continents discovered that the Kohinoor was not just a jewel. It was a global story, one that belonged to everyone in some small, emotional way. Through all this, the diamond rested in its glass case, silent and still. It did not respond to the voices debating its future. It simply glowed softly, as if reminding observers that its true nature lay beyond human arguments. It had witnessed kingdoms fall, borders change, and languages evolve. It would likely witness many more transformations in the centuries to come. Some proposed shared custody agreements. Others suggested global exhibitions that would allow different nations to host the diamond temporarily. A few imagined a future museum dedicated entirely to objects with contested histories, a place where the Kohinoor would rest among artifacts from many cultures, teaching visitors about dialogue instead of conflict. These ideas floated through discussions like gentle breezy sincertan, yet hopeful. As the world matured, so did the tone of the debate. Nations began to speak not simply of return or ownership, but of remembrance, respect, and the desire to honor history in ways that felt fair to future generations. Instead of forcing a conclusion, the global community embraced the idea that the conversation itself was valuable. The Kohinoor's story became a lesson in patience, much like the diamond's own nature. Legal debates continued, but they did so quietly, steadily, like the slow movement of tides. Committees formed, dissolved, and reformed. New research surfaced. Old records were re-examined. The story of the diamond grew richer, its timeline clearer, and its global significance deeper. Each discovery added a new chapter, reminding the world that history is never truly finished. And through it all, the Kohinoor remained a calm center in a world full of shifting opinions. Its light, steady and ancient, illuminated not answers but possibilities. It allowed people to imagine different futures, some where it returned to its birthplace, some where it traveled between nations, and some where it continued to rest quietly, serving as a symbol of shared heritage. In this gentle and diplomatic age, the diamond's journey was no longer shaped by force, but by thoughtfulness. The world understood that its story, spanning thousands of years, could not be resolved through a single decision. Instead, its future would unfold slowly, echoing the soft rhythm of time itself. And so, the Kohinoor waited calm, unchanging, infinitely patient, a silent listener in a world learning to speak with more kindness than ever before. In the gentle hush of the modern world, the Kohinoor stands at a crossroads unlike any it has faced before. Its past is vast, its present is calm, and its future still unwritten rests quietly in the hands of time. After centuries of movement, conflict, pride, and negotiation, the diamond now exists within a space of possibility. Suspended between nations, cultures, and histories that all feel a deep connection to its story. Each day, as visitors drift softly through museum halls, the diamond feels like a calm lighthouse in a sea of curiosity. People come and go, whispering about the gem's destiny. Some talk of returning it to its birthplace. Others imagine new forms of global cooperation. Many simply marvel at the idea that a single stone could carry so many centuries within it, untouched and unwavering. As the world grows more reflective about history, discussions about the Kohinoor take on new meaning. Instead of asking only where it should physically rest, people wonder what role it might play in healing old wounds or bringing cultures closer together. Some historians dream of a future where artifacts with tangled histories become symbols of unity, objects that remind humanity of its shared roots rather than its divisions. A few visionaries imagine an international heritage program where treasures like the Kohinoor travel from country to country, spending seasons in different museums across continents. In this vision, the diamond becomes a guest in multiple nations, teaching each generation about the complexity of identity, memory, and time. Its journey would no longer be forced by war, but guided by cooperation and respect. Others imagine a future where the Kohinoor remains exactly where it is, but its story is shared globally through immersive exhibitions and digital archives. Modern technology could allow millions to explore the gem in extraordinary detail each facet. Each glimmer, each layer of history without needing to hold it or move it. In such a future, the diamond becomes a bridge between eras, carried not through hands but through knowledge. There are also those who wish for the diamond to return home, whether to India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, or Iran. For them, the Kohinoor is part of an emotional tapestry woven from centuries of culture, loss, and identity. Their vision of the future includes ceremonies of welcome, quiet celebrations of memory, and the sense of closure that comes from reconnecting a long-separated treasure with its origins. Yet the world now approaches these possibilities gently. Unlike past centuries, today's discussions do not draw blood. They draw breath slow, thoughtful, deliberate. Committees form, dissolve, and form again. Proposals rise, settle, and rise once more. Each idea, each suggestion, floats through the global conversation like a soft ripple on still water. Through all this, the Kohinoor itself remains unchanged. It does not shine differently depending on nationality. It does not grow brighter or dimmer with political shifts. It simply rests within its glass enclosure, its ancient heart beating quietly with the memory of mountains, rivers, empires, and dreams. The diamond's calm presence reminds the world that time moves slowly, and that real answers may take decades to unfold. In private circles, some historians whisper that perhaps the Kohinoor will one day become part of a global museum of shared humanity, a place where artifacts with complicated pasts are preserved not for pride but for reflection. Others imagine that the diamond will continue to inspire art, poetry, and scholarship for centuries. Still others believe that the gem itself will outlive all current debates, glowing softly as new generations arrive, learn, and eventually build their own interpretations of its story. What the future holds remains wrapped in gentle uncertainty, and perhaps that is fitting. For the Kohinoor has always lived between worlds, between myth and fact, between glory and sorrow, between belonging and wandering. Its brilliance is steady enough to illuminate the past, yet soft enough to let the future remain a quiet mystery. As the diamond watches the modern world spin slowly forward, it seems content to wait. It has waited through ages of kings, conquerors, travelers, scholars, and dreamers. It can wade through the delicate unfolding of tomorrow's conversations as well. Time has never rushed the Kohinoor, and the gem has never rushed time. In this long, peaceful pause, this gentle moment between history and destiny, the Kohinoor shines without urgency, resting in the knowledge that its story is far from over. Somewhere ahead, new chapters await, shaped not by force, but by thoughtfulness, not by conquest, but by understanding, not by power, but by the shared curiosity of a world still learning how to honor the past with grace. And so the Kohinoor continues its quiet journey, glowing softly, like a calm star suspended between centuries, illuminating the path of human memory as it slowly, gently moves toward whatever future awaits. The night lay quietly over the ancient lands, spreading a soft, velvety calm across the hills where the earliest Indian miners once worked. Their stories have long been buried beneath the dust of time. But if one listens closely, the echoes of their lives still linger in the cool breath of forgotten valleys. This chapter takes us gently into that world, peaceful, unhurried, and rich with the whisper of forgotten techniques. The dawn of the first miners, long before kingdoms rose and jewels were recorded in royal texts. Small groups of people wandered along riverbanks and rocky slopes, noticing faint glimmers hidden within the earth. These were not miners in the modern sense. They were gatherers, curious souls, instinctively drawn to the purity of smooth stones, to the unexpected brightness of crystals lying half buried in sand. Their tools were nothing more than shaped river pebbles, polished pieces of wood, and the strength of their hands. Yet these simple instruments began a tradition that would continue for thousands of years, ultimately leading to the discovery of legendary gems like the Kohinoor, the harmony between river and mountain in ancient India, nature itself served as the first teacher. Rivers carved paths through the land, leaving behind sediments rich with minerals. Mountains, high and silent, sheltered untapped veins of crystal deep within their rugged hearts. The mining communities understood these movements. They watched how monsoon waters carried stones downstream, how the riverbeds changed texture each season, how certain hillsides sparkled faintly at dusk. With time, they learned to read the earth the way others read stars. For them, it was not exploitation, it was a quiet conversation with nature. Tools born from necessity, their tools grew from necessity, crafted by patience rather than precision. Hammerstones made from harder rock for cracking open surfaces. Long wooden stakes used to pry apart softer layers. Fire heating, a brilliant early technique. They heated rock walls with fire, then cooled them rapidly with water. The sudden temperature shift caused the stone to fracture naturally. Baskets, woven from reeds to carry stones and soil from the caves. Animal hide buckets to haul water inside dark tunnels. Every tool, every method was created with an understanding of nature's rhythm. They did not rush. Each movement was slow, deliberate, mindful, just like the whispering tone of a sleep story. Deep inside the earth, as generations passed, the miners moved deeper underground. The tunnels were narrow, often lit by simple lamps made of clay and oil. Their light cast a warm glow against rough stone walls, illuminating specks of mineral dust floating in the air like tiny stars. The workers moved quietly, their footsteps muffled by earth. Every strike of a tool echoed faintly, as though the mountains were acknowledging their efforts. Despite the hard labor, the work had a strange serenity to it. The miners sang soft melodies to keep rhythm, their voices weaving into the hum of the underground world. These songs told stories of ancestors, of earth spirits, of children waiting near riverbanks for their parents to return. Life around the mines beyond the tunnels stood their settlements, small clusters of huts built near streams. The people lived simple lives. They woke before dawn, shared warm meals of grain and herbs, and walked together to the mines as the first light touched the peaks. Children collected firewood, women prepared tools and sorted stones. Elders prayed to the earth, thanking it for its generosity. Their society was woven tightly with cooperation. No one worked for wealth or power. They worked because the earth carried treasures, and they felt called to find them. The first spark of value one day, among these communities, someone picked up a stone that shimmered brighter than the rest. It was smooth, radiant, and unlike anything they had seen. Not the Kohinoor, but its earliest ancestor. A primitive discovery that planted a seed in human desire. The villagers didn't know its value yet. They simply admired it, passing it around in wonder. It became a charm, carried during rituals and celebrations. This was how the concept of precious stones began quietly, innocently. From curiosity, not greed. Nature as a silent partner. Every technique the miners developed came from observing nature. How roots split stone over decades. How water carved through rock without force. How wind polished surfaces smooth. They imitated these methods gently. They rarely forced the earth open. Their mining was not an invasion, but a partnership. This harmony is what allowed early India to discover some of the world's earliest diamonds, long before kingdoms fought for them, long before historians wrote their names, long before the Kohinoor became a symbol of power. The quiet legacy. As centuries passed, the techniques advanced, tools improved, and mining grew into an industry. But the calm patience of those earliest workers' respect for the earth, remained a silent foundation beneath everything that came later. Even the mines of Golconda, the birthplace of the Kohinoor, were shaped by the same ancient philosophy: work with the land, not against it. In this soft, moonlit chapter of history, we see not power or conquest, but gentle beginnings. The first spark, the first touch, the first stones collected by human hands in the stillness of early dawn. And from these humble origins, a legend would one day rise. The silent valleys, ancient soil, and birthplace of the Kohinoor. Before Golconda became a name whispered in royal courts and spoken with awe by travelers, it was simply a stretch of quiet land, an unhurried world of gentle hills, warm breezes, and sleeping rivers. The diamond fields of Golconda did not reveal their treasures easily. They waited, patient and steady, for centuries, until the right eyes learned how to read the land's subtle language. This chapter invites you into that landscape, soft, peaceful, and filled with the kind of ancient calm that guides a listener into rest. Where the earth kept its secrets, the region that would later be known as Golconda was once a vast expanse of reddish soil. When the sun rose, the earth glowed like powdered fire. When dusk came, it cooled into deep purple shadows. The ground itself was layered with secrets. Coarse sand shaped by ancient rivers, beds of clay hardened by summers, thick veins of gravel hidden below, and beneath everything, layers of volcanic rock that had cooled over millions of years. Inside those layers, diamonds slept quietly, each one bound in the earth like a tiny star waiting to be found. The river Musi and its gentle path. Flowing through this rugged landscape was the river Musi, a slow, thoughtful river. Its waters were not wild. Instead, they moved with a steady patience, smoothing stones, shifting sediments, and slowly revealing hints of what lay buried below. During the monsoon season, the river swelled, bringing with it fresh sand and washed-down minerals. When it retreated, it left behind new clustini crystals, strange pebbles shaped by force and time, fragments of volcanic ash. The earliest miners noticed these patterns long before they understood the science behind them. To them, the river spoke through signs: a gleam in the mud, a fragment of stone that felt unusually dense, a shimmer that stayed even when wiped clean. The hills that guarded the jewels. The hills surrounding Golconda were quiet guardians of the region. Their slopes were covered with scrub forests, acacia trees with twisted branches, thorny bushes, and wild grasses that swayed in the warm wind. These hills were formed from ancient volcanic activity. Millions of years ago, molten rock cooled beneath the surface, creating pockets of pressure and heat. That natural furnace shaped the earliest diamonds. Although the people living around Golconda did not understand geology, they felt a presence in the hills, a sense that the land was alive and watchful. Some believed spirits lived inside the rocks. Others said the earth itself protected its treasure until the right people came. Early settlements around the fields, long before Golconda Fort existed, small settlements formed near the river. The people lived simple lives. They built clay huts with thatched roofs. They farmed in the cool mornings. They gathered at night around warm fires. They offered seasonal prayers to the earth and sky. The land was their teacher, and over generations, they learned to read its moods, when to wait, when to dig, and when to retreat from coming storms. During quiet evenings, elders spoke of stones that glowed under the sun, of crystals hidden deep in the hills, of treasures meant for patient hands. No one imagined that one of these stones would eventually become the Kohinoor. The first discovery one calm afternoon, after the monsoon rains had drained away, a young boy walked along a stream searching for smooth pebbles. He bent down to rinse a strange stone in the water. The moment sunlight touched it, a tiny spark flashed. Not bright, not intense, just a small, steady glimmer, like a secret revealing itself. He carried the stone to the village, where elders examined it carefully. They saw its clarity, its toughness, its inner fire. It was not the Kohinoor, but it was the first diamond found in the region. This single moment changed everything. The people began searching carefully along the riverbanks and in the surrounding hills. The land that had once been quiet now held the promise of something precious. And soon, word spread beyond the villages. The land awakens as more diamonds were discovered. Golconda's landscape slowly transformed. Paths formed where workers walked daily, pits opened up near the river, wooden platforms were built to sift soil, fires warmed miners during cold nights, and a hum of activity grew where silence had once lived. But despite the growing work, the land retained its calm. Sunrise still painted the hills in soft gold. Wind still carried the scent of warm earth. Nights still fell gently, wrapping the fields in quiet darkness. This balance of nature and human effort shaped Golconda's identity for centuries. The birthplace of royal legends, what began as small discoveries in scattered villages, soon became the foundation of a global legend. The diamonds of Golconda would travel across continents, pass through the hands of kings, warriors, emperors, and conquerors. Among them, the purest, brightest, and most faded gem of all the Kohinoor was waiting patiently beneath the soil, not yet found, not yet named. But slowly, silently, the land was preparing its gift to history. As the seasons quietly shifted over the vast landscape of Golconda, the growing interest in the shimmering stones transformed the region into a place of gentle but steady activity. What had once been a land of silent hills and wandering herders slowly became a world shaped by careful hands, thoughtful observation, and the soft rhythm of early mining life. The expansion of Golconda's first mining fields did not happen suddenly. It unfolded gradually, like the opening of a slow, ancient flower. The villagers who had discovered the first diamonds began gathering every morning by the riverbanks, watching the earth with new eyes, noticing textures and shades they had ignored before. The land itself seemed to speak more clearly now, guiding them toward deeper secrets buried beneath its warm, patient surface. Groups of workers began marking areas where the soil looked unusual, patches where the gravel was thicker, where the earth felt heavier underfoot, or where monsoon waters left behind strange sediments. They formed small circles, discussing in low voices how and where they should begin digging. Their decisions were never rushed. Each step was taken with caution and respect, for the people believed that the earth rewarded only those who approached it with humility. Gradually, shallow pits appeared near the river. They were quiet places, shaped by wooden tools and simple baskets. Workers moved slowly, removing layers of sand and gravel, letting the sunlight fall gently into the growing depressions. Each handful of soil was examined with care, sifted through fingers that had become more sensitive with time. The deeper the pits became, the more the workers relied on teamwork. Someone carried water, someone cleared soil, others sorted the gravel under the warm light of the morning sun. Their movements flowed with a sense of calm unity, creating a soft harmony of effort, nothing loud, nothing forceful, just a peaceful sequence of gestures repeated day after day. Soon, word spread to nearby villages. Families arrived to help, bringing with them new ideas and different experiences. Some knew how to build sturdier wooden supports for deeper pits. Others taught how to use woven mats to separate finer particles of soil. A few elders remembered old stories about hidden stones and shared tales from their ancestors, adding a sense of sacredness to the work. As the pits expanded, the miners discovered something unexpected: layers of gravel that seemed untouched for thousands of years. They were thicker, heavier, and cooler to the touch. When these layers were broken open, more diamonds emerged, small, rough, but filled with the quiet fire that made Golconda's gems so different from the rest of the world. Each new stone deepened their belief that the land was far more generous than they had imagined. With these discoveries, the villagers realized they could no longer treat mining as a temporary fascination. They needed to build something lasting. They constructed small shelters near the pits, simple huts made of bamboo and dried leaves. Fires burned gently at night, offering warmth to workers who stayed late to clean and sort stones. The sound of quiet conversation filled the evenings as families sat together, sharing their hopes and dreams about what this new discovery might mean. But even as the work grew, the land remained peaceful. The hills watched from a distance, unmoving, their shadows stretching slowly across the fields as the sun traveled its ancient path. Birds flew low near the river, dipping their wings into the cool water before returning to their nests. The wind drifted across the mining fields like a soft whisper, carrying with it the smell of warm earth and distant vegetation. The villagers respected the land more than ever. Before starting each day's work, they placed a small offering: fresh flowers, a handful of rice, or a clay lamp near the edge of the pits. These gestures were not born of fear, but gratitude, a quiet acknowledgement of the earth's willingness to share its treasures. As deeper pits were dug, they began to reinforce the walls with wooden beams to prevent collapse. This required greater planning and collaboration. Groups met under the shade of trees, drawing simple diagrams in the soil. Deciding where to dig next and how to keep the workers safe, the pits grew deeper, and at night, when the lamps glowed softly inside the tunnels, the fields looked like a constellation of stars fallen to earth. Even the children became part of the mining community. They did not dig, but they carried water, fetched stones, and learned to recognize the subtle shine that separated ordinary rocks from precious crystals. Their laughter brought warmth to the fields, balancing the long hours of slow, patient labor. And through all of this, although no one realized it yet. The land was slowly guiding them toward something extraordinary, toward the ancient vein where the Kohinoor itself slept, untouched, and waiting for the moment when human hands would finally uncover its light. Golconda's first expansion was not simply the growth of a mining field. It was the birth of a new connection between people and the land. A quiet trust formed over time, shaped by patience, cooperation, and the gentle promise of the earth's hidden gifts. This was the beginning of a deeper journey, one that would soon lead them closer to the most legendary diamond the world had ever known. Over time, Golconda's mining fields began to earn a reputation far beyond the quiet villages nestled along the hills and rivers. Travelers who passed through spoke of stones that caught the sun and reflected it like tiny stars. Merchants whispered in soft tones about treasures hidden deep in the hills. And within the hills themselves, the earth seemed to hum quietly, as if aware that something remarkable was stirring beneath its surface. The miners, however, remained unhurried. They had learned patience from the land, and their movements reflected a gentle rhythm, like the slow ebb and flow of a river. Each morning, they walked to their pits carrying baskets and simple tools, eyes scanning the soil for any sign of glimmering stones. And each evening, as the sun sank behind the distant peaks, they returned with discoveries that were both small and extraordinary, placing each gem carefully into soft cloths, treating them with respect rather than greed. The deeper they dug, the more the land revealed its secrets. Narrow tunnels stretched like veins through the hills, guided by instinct and careful observation rather than maps. Inside these passages, the miners worked side by side, their hands moving with quiet precision, their voices murmuring gentle songs that echoed faintly against the stone. These songs told stories of ancestors, of spirits believed to watch over the earth, of seasons and rivers, of patience rewarded. Occasionally, the miners uncovered stones that were brighter than anything they had seen before. These diamonds were small at first, hidden within rough rock, but each one seemed to pulse softly with light, as though the mountain itself was breathing. They became objects of fascination and reverence, passed carefully from hand to hand, examined in the soft glow of clay lamps. Word of these discoveries spread slowly, carried by travelers and traders who moved discreetly through the region. Golconda began to attract attention not because of armies or conquest, but because of the quiet, enduring brilliance of the earth. Kings and merchants sent emissaries, not with swords, but with questions, curiosities, and gentle offers to purchase stones that seemed almost magical in their clarity. Yet, the villagers maintained their serene routine. They did not rush to sell or display their findings. Instead, they cataloged each stone, placing the finest crystals in soft pouches, marking their origins in the soil with careful notes. Each gem was treated as a gift of time itself, a silent testimony to the patient labor and reverence that had brought it to light. As the mining expanded, the hills seemed to shift subtly, revealing hidden alcoves and narrow veins that held treasures untouched by human hands. Miners developed new techniques, layering stones in baskets, gently washing gravel with river water, and examining each fragment under sunlight to see which had potential. Their understanding of the land deepened, and so did their connection to it. They were not merely extracting minerals, they were learning from the earth, listening to its rhythms, and respecting its quiet power. By the time the Kohinoor itself lay buried somewhere within these hills, Golconda had already earned a legendary reputation. The mines were no longer just pits or tunnels. They had become a living ecosystem of human effort, natural patience, and slow discovery. Every stone that shimmered, every vein that yielded a crystal, carried with it the calm, deliberate rhythm of centuries, a rhythm that the future would remember when the world finally recognized Golconda as the cradle of the world's most famous diamonds. And so, in the hush of those hills, the Kohinoor slept quietly, waiting for hands that would one day uncover it, and for the story that would slowly unfold across centuries, nations, and empires. In the soft, amber light of early morning, the miners of Golconda slowly emerged from their small huts. The sun had not yet climbed high, and the hills were draped in a mist that softened every sound. Birds stirred in the trees, and the gentle murmur of the river guided the rhythm of the day. This was the world of the workers, quiet yet purposeful, where every movement carried centuries of learned patience. The day began with preparation. Men carried baskets made of woven reeds, carefully inspecting each for wear. Women organized tools and checked lamps, ensuring that oil was ready for the long hours underground. Children followed with small bundles of water or bundles of arbs, their tiny hands moving carefully along familiar paths. Even in this simple routine, there was a sense of ceremony, a rhythm that honored both the earth and the people who worked upon it. Before entering the pits, miners offered a soft blessing. They sprinkled a few grains of rice onto the soil, placed a small lamp on the edge of the excavation, and murmured words of gratitude. These rituals were quiet and private, yet they gave shape and meaning to the work that lay ahead. The earth, they believed, responded not to force, but to respect. The work itself was slow and deliberate. Hands probed to layers of gravel, separating tiny stones from sand. Wooden stakes and hammerstones were used with care, producing a soft rhythm of tapping and scraping that echoed faintly through the narrow tunnels. Every fragment of earth was examined, every stone held up to the light to see if it carried the hidden brilliance of a diamond. Evenings were as calm as mornings. As the sun lowered behind the hills, families gathered near the pits. Soft lamps glowed, and the gentle hum of conversation mixed with the cooling air. Stories of ancestors and past discoveries were shared, and sometimes the faint sparkle of a newly found crystal was passed quietly from hand to hand. Laughter was rare, but treasured a soft punctuation to the laborious day. The miners' lives were intertwined with the natural cycles. They learned when to rest, when the river would overflow, and when the soil would yield its hidden treasures. Every discovery, however small, was celebrated with a quiet reverence. Diamonds were not taken lightly. Each stone was a reminder of patience rewarded, a reflection of the harmony between human effort and the slow, steady rhythms of nature. Through all this, the Kohinoor remained hidden, deep within the hills, untouched and waiting. Yet its presence was felt indirectly in the careful, gentle movements of the workers, in the rituals they maintained, and in the soft songs they sang to accompany the day's labor. The legend of Golconda's diamonds was already taking shape, built upon countless hours of quiet, meticulous work by those who respected the earth above all else. And as night fell, the miners retreated to their simple homes, the faint glow of the last lamp illuminating the sleeping hills. The river murmured softly, the wind whispered through the trees, and the soil rested, holding its hidden treasures close. Tomorrow would be another day, slow, deliberate, and filled with the quiet hope of discovery, a rhythm that had defined Golconda for CE. The early morning mist still hugged the hills of Golconda as the miners gathered around a newly dug pit. The air was cool and still, carrying the soft scent of wet earth and distant forest. For weeks, they had been carefully sifting through the gravel, examining every stone with quiet patience. Today, something felt different, an almost imperceptible hum in the soil, like the earth itself was holding its breath. A young miner named Aaron crouched by the edge of the pit, gently brushing away fine sand from a rough stone. At first, it appeared ordinary, dull and gray, but when sunlight caught a tiny facet hidden within its rough surface, a delicate sparkle flickered, like a secret trying to reveal itself. Aaron's breath caught. He held the stone closer, turning it slowly. The sparkle deepened, radiating a calm, steady light. He whispered to his companions, "Look, it's not just a stone." The elders approached carefully, their hands steady despite excitement that could have otherwise rushed them. They examined the gem, turning it in soft, practiced motions under the morning sun. It was clear, hard, and glowing faintly from within, a diamond unlike any they had seen in these hills before. Word spread quickly through the mining settlement. The discovery did not provoke chaos or greed, at least not yet. Instead, it inspired awe. Villagers paused to admire the gem, feeling the patience and care that had led to its uncovering. The diamond was not a prize. It was a quiet miracle, a testament to decades of careful labor and understanding of the land. Over the next few days, more discoveries followed in the same area. Smaller diamonds appeared, nestled within gravel deposits, their light, gentle but persistent. Miners learned to read the subtle differences in soil and stone, noticing where the earth shimmered faintly or carried a heavier, denser weight underfoot. Each new crystal strengthened the community's understanding that the land was generous, but only to those who approached it with respect and patience. Evening fell, and the river murmured softly alongside the pits. Children carried small baskets filled with carefully sorted stones, placing them near the elders for examination. The firelight danced gently on the miners' faces, reflecting off the few rough diamonds that had been found. Stories of the first major discoveries were shared in whispers, almost like a bedtime tale, blending lessons of caution, reverence, and the slow unfolding of fate. The hills themselves seemed to approve, standing silent and tall. No one knew it yet, but these first significant gems were the precursors to a treasure that would eventually travel across continents, become part of royal collections, and achieve a legendary status that the world would one day know as the Kohinoor. But for now, it was only the quiet hills of Golconda, a few patient miners, and the soft glimmer of diamonds waiting to be discovered. With the first major diamonds discovered, Golconda slowly transformed from a quiet cluster of villages into a subtle hub of activity. The hills remained serene, the river flowed without rush, but the earth beneath began to draw more attention. Small groups of miners, guided by experience and intuition, organized themselves to explore deeper veins. The word of treasures had not yet traveled beyond nearby settlements, but within these valleys, a gentle excitement began to settle, like a soft murmur carried by the wind. Each day started in the soft glow of dawn. Miners carried baskets, simple wooden tools, and woven mats for sifting gravel. They moved quietly, speaking in whispers so as not to disturb the stillness of the hills. Every movement was deliberate. Every strike of the hammer or push of the stake was measured and respectful. They understood that the earth was generous, but only when approached with patience. Teams worked in rotation. Some dug shallow pits along riverbanks, carefully washing gravel to reveal hidden stones. Others explored higher elevations, examining rocky outcrops for veins previously unseen. The rhythm of their work resembled a calm ritual more than labor, a slow dance between human hands and the patient land. The miners quickly realized that not all diamonds lay where they expected. Some were hidden in layers of gravel left by centuries of river flow. Others were buried deep within volcanic rock, requiring ingenuity and care to reach. They learned to observe subtle signs, the weight of soil underfoot, the shimmer of tiny fragments in sunlight, or the faint reflection of crystal when water pooled in a shallow pit. Evenings brought a different kind of quiet. Families gathered near the pits, sharing soft meals, tending lamps, and discussing the day's discoveries. The children listened carefully, learning which stones held promise and which were ordinary. Elders told stories of the first diamonds, reminding everyone that these treasures were not merely material but symbols of human patience and harmony with the land. Over weeks, the small exploratory efforts coalesced into the first structured mining operations in Golconda. Simple shelters were built, fires burned at night, and soft lamplight illuminated the gentle movements of people sorting and cataloging stones. The land responded in kind, revealing more diamonds in veins previously unnoticed, as if approving of the careful rhythm established by its discoverers. Though the Kohinoor itself remained hidden, the miners sensed that something extraordinary lay deeper within the hills. Each discovery, however modest, strengthened their understanding. Diamonds were patient treasures, revealed only to those who respected time, labor, and nature itself. By the end of the first season, Golconda's mining fields were no longer just pits and hills. They had become a living network of human diligence and natural bounty. The hills were quiet but alive. The river whispered, guiding the hands that sought its hidden gifts. And somewhere, in the deep, still layers of the earth, the Kohinoor waited silently, destined to emerge centuries later. A reward for those who approached it with patience, care, and reverence. Natcheries, long before the world would ever hear the name of the Kohinoor. As the years passed, the quiet hills of Golconda began to attract attention far beyond their immediate valleys. Traders and travelers from distant lands heard whispers of a place where stones glimmered like captured sunlight. Yet the hills themselves remained calm, indifferent to the rising interest, as if time itself flowed differently here. The miners continued their gentle work, now more organized and methodical. They dug deeper tunnels, expanded existing pits, and developed new techniques for sifting and sorting stones. Bamboo scaffolds and wooden supports crisscrossed the deeper shafts, allowing the workers to reach veins previously hidden. Their movements were careful, rhythmic, almost meditative, as though the hills themselves, were teaching them the art of patience. When merchants first arrived, they did so quietly, moving on soft-soiled paths and speaking in hushed tones. They came not with armies, but with curiosity, small caravans carrying spices, cloth, and coin. They marveled at the miners' discoveries and bought stones carefully, respecting the labor that had revealed them. The villagers were cautious, aware that each gem carried centuries of careful extraction, and they negotiated with measured calm, never rushing, never desperate. Slowly, news of Golconda's diamonds spread across seas and continents. Travelers told tales of gems so pure that sunlight passed through them like water through glass. Kings and nobles in faraway lands began to desire these stones, though few had ever seen them directly. The reputation of Golconda grew not through conquest, but through the quiet brilliance of its hidden treasures and the careful hands that brought them forth. Within the hills, life remained much the same. Children still helped carry water, elders still offered soft blessings at the edge of pits, and miners still sang gentle songs while working. The diamonds themselves seemed to respond to this serenity. Those that were extracted glimmered more brightly, as though they carried the calm of the hills within them. By now, Golconda was more than just a village with pits. It had become a legend whispered in marketplaces and royal courts, a name associated with patient labor, natural beauty, and rare, enduring treasures. The Kohinoor, still hidden deep within the hills, waited silently. Its story would not yet unfold, but every diamond discovered brought the world one step closer to recognizing the greatness of Golconda. Evenings remained soft and quiet. Lamps glowed along riverbanks and near mining huts, casting gentle light on piles of stones carefully sorted by size and clarity. Families shared modest meals. Children listened to elders' tales, and the hills stood silent, watching over their hidden gems. In this balance of labor, patience, and nature's quiet generosity, Golconda earned its place on the world map, not by force, but by the brilliance of what it offered to those who approached with respect. The world would come to know its treasures, but for now, the hills held their secrets close, allowing only the patient and the gentle to glimpse their sparkling heart. By the time the third decade of mining in Golconda had passed, the diamond's reputation had reached royal courts far beyond India. Kings and nobles, hearing of the brilliant stones that glimmered like captured sunlight, began sending emissaries with careful inquiries. Yet the hills themselves remained unchanged, silent observers of the human fascination slowly unfolding below. In the villages, life continued in gentle rhythms. Miners rose with dawn, carrying their baskets and tools, moving quietly through mist-covered fields. Families offered soft blessings before work, and children learned the subtle signs that indicated where the land might yield a hidden gem. The discoveries were still modest compared to what the earth held, but each crystal brought a quiet pride, a sense of connection to something far larger than themselves. The first royal envoys arrived on soft-soiled paths, riding on camels or horses, bringing cloth, spices, and coins to exchange for diamonds. They marveled at the miners' careful techniques, observing how stones were washed, sifted, and examined in sunlight. No haste marked these visits. The traders and emissaries moved with measured curiosity, respecting the rituals that the villagers had cultivated over decades. A young miner named Aaron, now more experienced, guided a small delegation through the hills. He showed them the shallow pits, the gentle river sifting, and the careful stacking of stones. The visitors were impressed by the calm efficiency, the quiet respect, and the remarkable clarity of the gems. Each diamond was a testament not only to the richness of the land, but also to the patient labor that brought it forth. Word of these royal visits traveled quickly. Soon, even kings in distant lands knew of Golconda's treasures. They imagined crowns and jewelry, armies of admirers, and the power that came with possession. Yet for the miners, there was no sense of urgency or greed only, the ongoing rhythm of careful extraction, the quiet joy of seeing a hidden stone revealed by patient hands. At night, after the emissaries had departed, families gathered near the pits. Fires glowed softly, casting dancing shadows on the walls of huts. Elders shared tales of the first major finds, reminding everyone that the diamonds were gifts of the earth, not tools of power. Children listened with wide eyes, dreaming not of kings or riches, but of the silent hills and the hidden stones sparkling beneath the soil. The Kohinoor, still deep and unclaimed, waited silently. Its journey had not yet begun, but each small discovery, each visit from distant royalty, slowly set the stage. The land of Golconda remained patient, holding its treasures close, teaching that true brilliance was earned through respect, care, and time. And so, while kings and empires became aware of Golconda's wealth, the hills themselves remained unchanged, their secrets safe in the gentle hands of those who worked in harmony with the earth. The hills of Golconda lay quiet in the early morning light, the mist rolling gently over the green slopes and along the riverbeds. For months, the miners had been following subtle hints in the soil, watching where the gravel shimmered faintly, where the river had shifted its course, and where the earth's layers felt heavier underfoot. Patience had guided them this far, and today promised a reward born of careful observation. In a narrow pit near a bend of the Musi River, Aaron and his team worked slowly. Each handful of gravel was sifted through reed mats, each stone examined under the soft glow of dawn. The air was filled with the quiet rhythm of tapping and brushing, punctuated by the gentle murmur of the river. It was as if the land itself was holding its breath, anticipating what was to come. Suddenly, a stone glimmered differently, brighter, steadier, almost commanding attention. Aaron paused, brushing the sand gently away. The stone beneath his fingers was larger than any previously uncovered, rough and unpolished but radiating a subtle inner fire. He held it carefully, feeling the cool weight and solid presence of the crystal. Around him, the team fell silent, their breaths measured, as though acknowledging the significance of the moment. This was no ordinary discovery. It was the first major diamond to emerge from this stretch of Golconda's hills, a precursor to the legendary gems that would follow. The villagers gathered around the pit, their faces lit by the soft sun filtering through the morning mist. No one spoke loudly, there was no celebration of greed, only a quiet reverence. They passed the stone carefully from hand to hand, observing its facets, feeling its cool, smooth edges, and appreciating the patience that had led to its discovery. That evening, the diamond was laid on a soft cloth near the riverbank. Lamps glowed gently around it, casting tiny reflections on the surrounding stones. Families sat nearby, sharing a modest meal and whispering stories of past finds. Elders reminded the young ones that each discovery was a gift of the earth, not a prize to hoard. The miners had learned that respect, care, and patience were as valuable as any gem. Over the following weeks, additional stones were uncovered in the same pit and surrounding areas. Some were smaller, yet no less remarkable, each carrying the subtle brilliance of Golconda's hills. Miners refined their techniques, learning which veins were most promising, and adjusting the depth and placement of pits accordingly. Through this careful work, the first documented large diamond of Golconda emerged, quietly setting the stage for the fame the mines would eventually achieve. Even as kings and distant traders heard of these remarkable stones, the hills remained tranquil. The river continued its slow course, and the Kohinoor, still hidden deeper beneath layers of earth, waited patiently for its moment. The first major extraction was not marked by pomp or haste. It was a quiet testament to human diligence. The patient conversation between hands and soil, and the slow unfolding of history that would one day carry Golconda's treasures across the world. The soft morning sun touched the hills of Golconda as the miners continued their careful work, unaware that their discoveries were about to cross oceans and reach the hands of kings. News of the first major diamonds had traveled slowly at first through traders, wandering merchants, and visiting emissaries, but now the hills were connected to a growing network of curiosity and admiration that spanned distant lands. A caravan arrived quietly at the edge of the mining settlements. Horses stirred the dust lightly as men and women carried baskets, cloth, and coins for exchange. Their arrival was not marked by fanfare but by careful observation. The miners, who had learned to read the land with patience, now extended that same caution to these visitors. They demonstrated how the diamonds were extracted, washed, and examined, showing every step as if it were a ritual rather than mere labor. The emissaries marveled at the clarity of the stones. Each gem seemed to capture the sun, refracting its light like miniature stars. They handled the diamonds with delicate reverence, understanding that these treasures were more than mere ornaments. They were the distilled patience of generations, each crystal a record of careful observation and quiet labor. Once assessed, the diamonds were gently packed into cloths and small boxes. The emissaries promised to carry them to royal courts, where kings and queens would marvel at these stones whose brilliance seemed almost otherworldly. As the caravans departed, the miners waved softly, returning to the quiet rhythm of their daily routines. No rush, no clamor, just a calm continuation of work, trusting that the earth would offer more treasures to those who waited patiently. Along the caravan routes, stories of Golconda's diamonds spread like whispered poetry. Traders described the soft glow of stones, the patient hands that had uncovered them, and the serene hills where the gems were born. Kings far away imagined crowns and jewelry, but the diamonds themselves remained symbols of a slower, gentler understanding of value earned not through conquest but through care and respect. Soon, emissaries arrived, drawn by tales of extraordinary gems from Golconda. The miners presented the Kohinoor with solemn care, ensuring that every movement was deliberate, every handling gentle. The stone's radiance seemed to respond, catching the light in mesmerizing ways, leaving observers in hushed wonder. Evenings in Golconda took on a new rhythm. Children listened to the stories of the greatest diamond ever found in their hills. Elders spoke of its discovery with quiet pride. And the miners continued their work with renewed purpose. The Kohinoor had not yet left the hills, but its presence changed the very atmosphere of Golconda. The hills seemed to glow subtly. The river whispered a little more clearly, and the earth's patience had finally yielded a gem of legendary stature. For now, the Kohinoor waited, silent, brilliant, and full of promise. Its journey had begun, but only slowly, carefully, and respectfully, just as the earth had always intended. The hills of Golconda held their quiet watch over the Kohinoor. Now recognized as the greatest gem the miners had ever uncovered, its brilliance seemed to surpass all other diamonds, catching the sunlight in gentle bursts of fire, yet remaining calm and silent in the hands of those who discovered it. The villagers approached its extraction with unmatched care, understanding that this diamond was destined for a journey far beyond their valleys. A small, careful caravan was assembled to transport the stone. It moved quietly along soft paths, with guards and attendants who had been instructed to treat the gem with reverence. Every movement was deliberate, each step measured to prevent damage. The Kohinoor was wrapped in layers of fine cloth, cushioned with soft reeds, and carried in a box that reflected the care and respect of the Golconda villagers. Word of the diamond's exceptional quality reached local rulers and neighboring kingdoms. Soft, deliberate whispers traveled along trade routes, describing a gem whose clarity and size were unmatched. Kings sent emissaries not with armies, but with quiet requests and careful offerings. They understood that the Kohinoor was no ordinary stone. It was a treasure born of patience, labor, and the patient heart of the earth itself. The caravan moved slowly, following the winding paths through hills and rivers, over soft soil and stone. At night, the travelers rested near the river banks, keeping watch over the gem. Lamps glowed gently, illuminating the soft cloth that wrapped the Kohinoor. Even in these moments of rest, the diamond seemed to emit a quiet glow, as if aware that its journey had just begun. In distant royal courts, tales of the Kohinoor arrived before the gem itself. Kings imagined the diamond set in crowns and jewelry, its brilliance reflecting their power. Yet, when the emissaries finally presented the stone, its presence surpassed even their expectations. It radiated not merely light, but a quiet authority, a reminder that the earth had created it, and human hands had carried it with respect. Back in Golconda, life continued in its gentle rhythm. Miners returned to their pits, children fetched water, and elders whispered blessings for safe passage. The hills remained serene, as if approving the careful journey of their greatest treasure. Thus began the Kohinoor's journey into history. It left the hills of Golconda calm and radiant, traveling to the hands of kings and the corridors of empires. Yet even as it began to cross continents, the lessons of patience, respect, and quiet diligence that nurtured it remained embedded in the memory of the hills and the people who first uncovered it. The journey of the Kohinoor slowly unfolded, moving from the quiet hills of Golconda to the opulent halls of royalty. Carried with utmost care, the diamond crossed rivers, valleys, and mountain passes, arriving finally at a court that understood its exceptional brilliance. Here, the stone was unwrapped in soft, deliberate motions, and the royal attendants were struck silent by its luminous fire. Unlike ordinary treasures, the Kohinoor did not demand attention through size alone. It possessed a calm, steady brilliance, as though it held the memory of centuries of patient labor beneath the hills. The gem seemed to capture light, not just reflecting it, but holding it within, radiating quiet authority and serenity. Courtiers whispered softly, and kings examined it with reverence rather than mere curiosity. The gem was placed in a secure cabinet, cushioned by velvet and silk, yet it was occasionally displayed in ceremonial gatherings. When it caught the sunlight through tall windows, the Kohinoor glimmered like captured starlight, commanding admiration without a single word. Craftsmen were commissioned to set it into crowns and other regalia, carefully working to honor the stone rather than simply adorn it. Meanwhile, back in Golconda, the hills remained silent guardians. Miners continued their daily rhythm, sifting gravel and observing subtle changes in the soil. Though they had sent their greatest gem away, the lessons of patience, care, and respect for the earth remained in every movement. Children watched elders with quiet fascination, learning the practices that had revealed the Kohinoor, even as new discoveries continued to emerge from the hills. Legends began to circulate quietly alongside the stone's movement. The Kohinoor was no longer just a diamond. It became a symbol of patience, rewarded, of human diligence, harmonized with nature. Travelers and emissaries carried tales of the gem's discovery, its calm brilliance, and the hills that nurtured it, spreading the story across kingdoms. Evenings in the royal courts were often spent examining the diamond by lamplight. Its faucets captured flickers of flame, reflecting them slowly and deliberately, reminding observers of the unhurried rhythm of its origin. The Kohinoor's presence infused the court with a quiet sense of wonder, a reminder that some treasures require time, respect, and careful hands to fully reveal their glory. And deep in the hills of Golconda, the river flowed gently. Pits lay still under the soft moonlight, and the earth seemed to rest, proud of the gem it had nurtured. Though the Kohinoor had entered royal collections, the story of its origin, of patient hands and quiet labor, remained etched in the hills for generations to come. As the Kohinoor settled into royal collections, whispers of its brilliance began to grow into tales of legend. Courtiers, nobles, and kings spoke softly of a diamond that seemed alive with history, as though it carried within it the patience of the Golconda hills and the labor of countless generations. The stone was no longer merely a treasure. It had become a story, a quiet marvel that inspired awe wherever it traveled. Legends began to weave themselves around the Kohinoor. Some claimed that whoever possessed it would hold power and fortune, while others whispered that the diamond chose its master with care, favoring only those who ruled with wisdom and patience. Children in distant lands, hearing the tales from traveling storytellers, imagined a glowing gem that shimmered with hidden knowledge. In the courts, the Kohinoor inspired both admiration and caution. Kings displayed it in ceremonies, careful to respect its history and radiance. The diamond's calm brilliance seemed to influence its observers, reminding them that greatness often came not from haste or conquest, but from patience, careful action, and understanding of the natural world. Even in these grand halls, the memory of Golconda remained embedded in the stone. Those who studied it noted that its fire was unlike any other diamond, not merely reflecting light, but holding it within, echoing the steady rhythm of the hills where it was discovered. Craftsmen handling it felt an almost meditative calm, aware that they were dealing with something both extraordinary and historically profound. Travelers carried stories of the Kohinoor to distant kingdoms. Some spoke of the calm and patient miners who first uncovered it, their simple rituals, and the quiet rhythm of life in Golconda. Others focused on the diamond's journey through royal hands, imagining the whispered awe it inspired in each court. The gem became a bridge between history, labor, and legend, connecting distant lands through its soft but undeniable presence. Evenings in royal courts became moments of quiet reflection. When the Kohinoor caught the flickering light of torches or lamps, those who gazed upon it felt a strange serenity, as if the hills of Golconda themselves were watching. The diamond's legend grew quietly, not through conquest, but through its calm authority, patience, and brilliance. Back in Golconda, life continued as always. Miners carried on with their gentle routines, children played near riverbanks, and elders reminded all who would listen of the stone's origin, the careful labor, and the slow unfolding of destiny. The Kohinoor's story was becoming larger than the stone itself, a tale of patience, reverence, and quiet endurance that would travel through centuries, empires, and continents. The Kohinoor continued its quiet passage through the corridors of power, moving from one royal court to another, each time adding a layer to its story, though it traveled across kingdoms and dynasties. The diamond retained the calm brilliance that had first been revealed in the gentle hills of Golconda. It reflected not just light, but the patient labor, careful hands, and the enduring rhythm of the earth from which it had come. In each palace, the diamond inspired both admiration and reverence. Kings and rulers, aware of its unique origin, treated it with care, understanding that the gem's true value was not merely in its size or clarity, but in its history and quiet presence. Courtiers whispered of its aura, describing a calm that seemed to settle over any room it entered. Lamps flickered against its facets, revealing a soft, steady glow that seemed almost alive. The Kohinoor's journey was never hurried. It moved slowly through time, passed carefully from hand to hand, cushioned in velvet and silk. It was displayed during grand ceremonies, admired silently for its radiant clarity, and then returned to quiet storage where it waited, almost meditative in its stillness. Legends grew alongside its passage, stories told of kings who prospered under its gaze, of wise rulers who were guided by its calm presence, and of travelers who had glimpsed its brilliance and carried tales of Golconda far and wide. The diamond's fame became as much about the tales and respect surrounding it as it was about its physical beauty. Meanwhile, the miners and families of Golconda continued their gentle routines. They had long passed the diamond into royal hands, but the hills remembered every careful brush of sand, every sifted riverbed, and every whispered blessing. Children learned from elders about the patient discovery of the stones and the lessons the earth imparted, that true treasures are earned slowly and must always be handled with respect. The Kohinoor's calm, steady brilliance, traveling from palace to palace, became a symbol of continuity and endurance. Though it passed through many hands, it never lost the quiet majesty instilled by its origin. It remained a reminder that even the most extraordinary treasures require patience. reverence, and harmony with the natural world. As nights fell in distant lands, the Kohinoor rested in cushioned boxers, while in Golconda, the hills remained serene. The river murmured softly, miners continued their work, and the legacy of patient labor endured. The diamond's journey through successive rulers was only the beginning of its long story, a story that would continue to unfold across continents, centuries, and empires. By the time the Kohinoor reached the courts of the Mughal Empire, its journey had already become legendary. Carried with meticulous care, the diamond found its place among the treasures of emperors who appreciated its calm brilliance, subtle fire, and quiet authority. Unlike other gems, which were often flaunted boldly, the Kohinoor inspired reverence rather than ostentation. In the halls of the Mughal palaces, where fountains whispered and gardens bloomed in gentle harmony, the diamond was displayed in soft lamplight. Its facets reflected the flickering flames, casting a subdued radiance that seemed to illuminate not just the room, but the careful history embedded within it. Courtiers and nobles approached it in hushed awe, understanding that the Kohinoor carried centuries of labor, patience, and quiet reverence for the earth. Emperors admired the diamond as both treasure and symbol. It was included in ceremonial jewelry, set into crowns and necklaces with painstaking precision. Craftsmen worked slowly, guided by the gem's subtle cues, aware that the stone demanded respect rather than haste. The Kohinoor seemed to respond to such care, glowing steadily under their gentle touch. Legends and stories about the diamond multiplied. Whispered tallies spoke of emperors whose fortunes were guided by the stone's calm presence, and travelers carried stories of Golconda's hills and the patient hands that first revealed it. Even distant kingdoms heard of this extraordinary gem, adding to the growing aura of the Kohinoor as a symbol of patience, authority, and enduring beauty. Meanwhile, the hills of Golconda remained serene, untouched by the grandeur of royal courts. Miners continued their routines quietly, children played along riverbanks, and elders taught the younger generations the lessons of careful observation, respect for the earth, and the patient uncovering of treasures. They understood that the Kohinoor, now far from their hands, carried a part of their history and their reverence for the natural world wherever it traveled. As the diamond moved through the Mughal Empire, it inspired admiration, respect, and quiet caution. Kings and courtiers understood that its brilliance was more than physical. It carried the legacy of Golconda, a reminder that true treasures are revealed slowly and maintained with patience. At night, in palaces far from Golconda, the Kohinoor rested in cushioned velvet boxers, glowing softly under the gentle candlelight. And in the hills of its origin, the river murmured as always, the pits lay calm under moonlight. And the memory of patient miners and generations of careful labor continued to echo, a quiet testament to the journey of the greatest diamond of all. As the Mughal Empire began to waver and change, the Kohinoor quietly traveled through shifting hands, moving from one ruler to another with careful preservation. Though the grand palaces of Delhi saw political turbulence, the diamond remained untouched by the chaos, its calm brilliance unchanged, a silent witness to the passage of time and power. In smaller kingdoms and courts that emerged from the empire's decline, the Kohinoor was treated with great reverence. Kings understood that this was not merely a gem, but a symbol of authority, legacy, and patient labor. It was carefully stored in soft velvet, displayed only on special occasions, and handled with deliberate care by trusted attendants. The diamond's journey through these changing realms added layers to its legend. Travelers whispered tallies of a stone that seemed to carry the history of the hills of Golconda, of patient miners, and of kings who respected its brilliance. Some spoke of its quiet aura, describing a calm that seemed to settle over anyone who gazed upon it. Meanwhile, back in Golconda, the river continued its gentle course, flowing past the same hills that had first revealed the diamond. Miners worked in their slow, rhythmic way, children listened to elders' stories, and the lessons of patience, respect, and careful observation endured. The Kohinoor, though far from its birthplace, remained linked to its origin, carrying the calm and quiet diligence of generations who had first uncovered it. Even in distant courts, the diamond's presence inspired reflection. Kings and courtiers were reminded that true value was not in hurried acquisition but in careful preservation and reverence. The Kohinoor's brilliance was steady, never diminished by the passage of power. A quiet reminder that history unfolds slowly, and treasures are revealed to those who respect time.
Nights in distant palaces were often illuminated by candlelight, reflecting softly off the diamond's facets.
The gem rested quietly, as if meditating on its journey. Meanwhile, the hills of Golconda remained serene. The pit still under moonlight, and the river whispered softly, carrying the memory of patient hands and enduring labor, echoing the origins of the greatest diamond in the world.
As the Mughal Empire's influence waned,
The Kohinoor began its subtle journey through the hands of regional rulers, including the emerging Sikh and Maratha powers.
The diamond, ever calm and brilliant, moved quietly through these courts,
Carrying with it a legacy that spanned generations and regions. In the Sikh territories, kings treated the gem with solemn respect. It was displayed sparingly, often during ceremonies or important gatherings.
where its quiet brilliance reflected more than just light. It reflected the history of patient miners, careful labor, and the hills of Golconda, from which it had first emerged.
courtiers whispered stories of the diamond's origin.
Linking the stone to a lineage of dedication and respect for the earth. The Maratha rulers, too, came into possession of the Kohinoor through careful negotiation and exchange. They admired its clarity, heft, and understated fire.
Craftsmen set it into crowns and ceremonial ornaments, ensuring that every facet reflected the gem's calm authority. No hurry marked its handling.
The diamond was a teacher of patience,
Reminding all who touched it that true brilliance could not be rushed.
Travelers and emissaries carried stories of the Kohinoor far beyond these courts. Tales spoke of a diamond that seemed almost alive, of a gem whose journey connected distant lands and dynasties.
and of the quiet hills of Golconda, where it had first been discovered. Each account added to its growing mystique, blending history, legend, and the careful labor of generations. Even as it passed through multiple rulers, the Kohinoor retained its serene presence. Kings understood its value not just in wealth or display, but in the calm authority it inspired. The diamond became a symbol of continuity in a period of change, a reminder that true treasures endure through respect, careful handling, and patient observation.
Back in Golconda, the hills remained undisturbed.
Miners continued their soft rhythm of work. Children played along the riverbanks.
And elders told stories of the diamond's discovery, ensuring that the legacy of careful labor and quiet patience was never forgotten.
The Kohinoor's journey, while reaching faraway courts, remained deeply connected to its origins.
Nightfall in each royal court brought soft lamplight reflecting on the diamond's facets. Its calm brilliance settled the observers, offering a quiet meditation on time, history,
And the enduring patience that had revealed it. And in Golconda,
The river whispered as always.
Carrying the memory of hands that first uncovered the world's greatest diamond.
In the early 19th century, the Kohinoor came into the possession of Maharaj Ranjit Singh,
the Sikh ruler renowned for his calm authority and strategic wisdom.
the diamond, ever patient in its brilliance, now found a home in a court where respect, order, and careful stewardship were valued.
Maharaj Ranjit Singh admired the Kohinoor, not only for its size and clarity, but also for the quiet dignity it carried.
It was set in ceremonial crowns and ornaments, each crafted meticulously to preserve the stone's integrity.
Craftsmen handled the gem with gentle care, aware that its brilliance demanded patience and reverence.
The diamond seemed to respond to this attention, its facets capturing the soft light of lamps and reflecting a calm, steady fire.
In the royal court, the Kohinoor inspired awe and admiration.
Courtiers spoke in hushed tones about its journey from the hills of Golconda to distant lands.
And finally into the hands of the Maharaj. Its history, entwined with the patience and careful labor of countless miners, added to its mystique.
Children of the court, hearing these stories, imagined the quiet hills, the flowing rivers, and the miners who first uncovered the diamond.
Travelers and emissaries visiting the court were struck by the gem's serene beauty.
Unlike other stones that dazzled superficially, the Kohinoor exuded a quiet authority.
Its brilliance seemed to teach a lesson. Greatness is not hurried.
It is nurtured patiently, respected, and preserved.
Kings,
Scholars and merchants alike found themselves humbled in its presence.
Reflecting on the centuries of care that had revealed such a treasure. Back in Golconda, life continued in its gentle rhythm.
Miners continued to sift through gravel and riverbeds.
Children played near soft-flowing streams.
and elders told the stories of patient labor that had produced not only the Kohinoor, but countless other gems.
The Diamond's journey through Maharaj Ranjit Singh's court became another chapter in its long story.
A chapter marked by respect, careful preservation, and the gentle wisdom of a ruler who understood its value beyond wealth.
Hills remained calm, and the memory of patient hands endured. The Kohinoor had arrived in a court worthy of its brilliance, yet it still carried with it the lessons of its arid patience, respect, and quiet endurance that would echo for centuries. The early 19th century brought turbulence to the Indian subcontinent, and the serene brilliance of the Kohinoor found itself caught in the tides of politics. After Maharaja Ranjit Singh's passing, the diamond remained in the treasury of the Sikh Empire. Yet, with shifting alliances and the eventual annexation of Punjab by the British East India Company, the Kohinoor's journey took a decisive turn. British officials, aware of the diamond's legendary status, treated its acquisition with formal ceremony. They moved slowly and deliberately, ensuring the stone's safe transport while acknowledging its historical and cultural significance. Unlike hurried spoils of conquest, the Kohinoor was handled with careful preparation. Wrapped in soft cloth, cushioned within boxers, and guarded by attentive attendants. In distant palaces and administrative halls, the Kohinoor was presented as a symbol of authority and wealth, a stone that had traveled through centuries of empires, dynasties, and careful hands. Courtiers and officials admired its calm brilliance, noting that its fire seemed untainted by the passage of power. The diamond's serene radiance reminded all who saw it that true treasures endure, regardless of the political storms surrounding them. Back in Golconda and Punjab, the hills and rivers remained undisturbed. Miners continued their quiet routines, and elders recounted the tale of the diamond's discovery, labor, and careful extraction. Though the Kohinoor had left the subcontinent, its origins remained deeply etched in memory, a symbol of patience, respect for the earth, and the meticulous work of countless hands. During its transfer, the diamond was carefully studied, catalogued, and preserved. Craftsmen and officials marveled at its clarity and subtle brilliance, recognizing that it was unlike any other gem. Lamps illuminated its facets, revealing layers of fire and light, a quiet reminder of centuries of patient labor and reverent handling. As the Kohinoor entered British possession, its journey across empires continued. It became not only a treasure of immense value, but also a symbol of the intertwined histories of kingdoms, miners, and rulers who had nurtured it along the way. Yet, no matter how far it traveled, the calm, patient brilliance of the diamond remained unchanged, carrying with it the whispers of Golconda, the labor of generations, and the quiet lessons of respect, patience, and endurance. Once in Britain, the Kohinoor took on a new life within the vast, echoing halls of royal collections. Carefully handled, cushioned in silk and velvet, it was introduced to an audience of nobles and dignitaries who had only heard stories of its brilliance. Unlike its travels through Indian courts, here it became part of ceremonial displays, symbols of continuity, authority, and the grandeur of empire. The diamond's calm brilliance captivated those who gazed upon it. Its facets caught the gentle light of chandeliers and candles, casting subtle reflections across polished surfaces. Observers whispered in awe, recognizing that this was no ordinary gem. Its history spanning centuries, kingdoms, and patient miners was palpable in the quiet glow it emitted. Royal jewelers worked with meticulous care to set the Kohinoor in crowns and ceremonial ornaments. Every movement was deliberate, every touch was gentle. The diamonds seemed to reward this patience, its brilliance, steady and enduring, reminding all who handled it that true treasures are preserved through respect, not haste. Public fascination grew as the Kohinoor became part of exhibitions and ceremonial occasions. Visitors admired its clarity, size, and inner fire, yet few could truly understand the depth of its history. Stories began to circulate quietly, telling of the distant hills of Golconda, the patient hands of miners, and the generations of rulers who had treated the diamond with reverence. Evenings in the grand halls were often softened by lamplight, with the Kohinoor resting in its cushioned setting. Its calm presence inspired reflection, a quiet reminder of the long journey from India to Britain, and of the centuries of care that had nurtured its brilliance. The diamond, though now far from its birthplace, carried with it the lessons of patience, endurance, and harmony with the earth. And still, somewhere in the hills of Golconda, the rivers flowed gently. The pits lay quiet under the moon, and the memory of careful labor endured. The Kohinoor's story had crossed continents, yet its essence remained unchanged, a gem of extraordinary brilliance, forged through centuries of respect, patience, and human diligence. Within the grand halls of Britain, the Kohinoor became more than a gemstone. It evolved into a quiet symbol of continuity, authority, and the weight of history. Its calm brilliance was displayed in royal ceremonies, resting atop crowns, gleaming subtly during coronations, and catching the gentle glow of candlelight. Nobles and dignitaries marveled in silence, understanding that the diamond carried centuries of stories, journeys, and patient care. Unlike ordinary treasures, the Kohinoor did not demand attention through ostentation. Its allure was understated, steady, and deliberate. Those who gazed upon it found themselves drawn into reflection, sensing not only its beauty, but the patient labor of Golconda miners, the careful stewardship of kings, and the centuries it had traveled. Its presence quietly reminded everyone that true greatness is nurtured slowly with respect and vigilance. Royal jewelers ensured that every setting highlighted the diamond's serene brilliance. Crowns were crafted with gentle precision, ceremonial ornaments were designed to protect its facets, and every touch was measured. The Kohinoor seemed to respond to this reverence, reflecting light with calm authority, casting a subtle glow that filled the room with quiet majesty. As it appeared in processions and coronations, legends surrounding the diamond grew. Stories told of its origin in Golconda, of patient hands that had uncovered it, and of rulers who treated it with solemn care. Visitors marveled not only at its size and clarity, but also at the aura of dignity and timelessness that accompanied it. The Kohinoor had become a bridge between continents and eras, carrying whispers of distant hills into the stately palaces of Europe. Back in Golconda, the river flowed serenely, the hills remained calm, and miners continued their gentle routines, unaware of the ceremonies far away. Yet their legacy endured in the diamond's facets: patience, respect, and meticulous labor. The Kohinoor's quiet authority in British ceremonies reflected centuries of careful hands and generations of reverence. A reminder that even the most celebrated treasures are born from humility, time, and unwavering diligence. Evenings in royal halls were often softened by lamplight, with the Kohinoor casting steady, reflective patterns across floors and walls. Its brilliance told silent stories of faraway lands, patient labor, and a journey spanning centuries. The diamond, now part of the British crown jewels, carried within it the enduring lessons of respect, calm observation, and careful stewardship, timeless reminders of the quiet power of patience and history. As the Kohinoor became part of British royal collections, stories about its brilliance and history traveled quietly through Europe. Tales of a diamond that had journeyed from the hills of Golconda, through empires, dynasties, and patient hands, captured the imagination of nobles, scholars, and common folk alike. Its legend grew slowly, carried in whispers, letters, and accounts of those fortunate enough to witness its calm radiance. The diamond was said to possess more than mere beauty. Stories hinted at its power to influence rulers, to bestow fortune, and to demand respect from those who possessed it. People speculated softly that the Kohinoor had a life of its own, a quiet authority born of centuries of careful labor and patient discovery. Courtiers, jewelers, and travelers spoke of it in hushed tones, careful not to disturb the mystique that surrounded its calm brilliance. Exhibitions and ceremonial displays introduced the diamond to a wider audience. Visitors marveled at its clarity, fire, and steady glow, often lingering to contemplate its long journey. Some imagined the hills of Golconda, the miners' gentle hands, and the countless rulers who had preserved it. Each facet reflected not only light but hysteria soft. Enduring reminder of the patience and reverence that had accompanied it from its origin. Even in European castles, the Kohinoor inspired quiet reflection. Kings and nobles admired it with subtle awe, aware that the diamond was more than decoration. Its calm presence suggested continuity, endurance, and the slow unfolding of history. The stone, though far from its birthplace, retained a connection to the earth and the people who had first uncovered it, bridging continents and centuries with silent grace. Back in India, the hills of Golconda remained tranquil. Rivers whispered over stones, miners continued their gentle routines, and elders passed down stories of the diamond's origin. The Kohinoor's journey, now celebrated and studied far from its home, never lost the essence instilled by patient hands, respect, careful labor, and enduring brilliance. Evenings in Europe often found the diamond resting quietly under lamplight. Its facets reflected steady, gentle light, captivating observers without haste or flamboyance. Legends intertwined with history, creating a tapestry of stories that would carry the Kohinoor's calm authority and brilliance into centuries to come, a quiet testament to patience, reverence, and enduring beauty. In the grand halls of British coronations, the Kohinoor assumed a role both silent and powerful. Set carefully into crowns and ceremonial regalia, the diamond captured the soft glow of chandeliers, reflecting steady fire without loud brilliance. Its presence was not merely decorative. It symbolized continuity, authority, and centuries of careful preservation. The gem was handled with meticulous reverence. Jewelers, instructed to honor its history, worked slowly, ensuring every facet was protected. Even the smallest movement was deliberate. The Kohinoor seemed to respond, its calm glow reminding those nearby of the patience and careful hands that had shaped its journey. It was a silent teacher, emphasizing that great treasures require respect, not haste. During coronations, the diamond became part of a larger ritual of symbolism. As the monarch was crowned, the Kohinoor glimmered quietly, reflecting candlelight and the soft sun filtering through tall windows. Courtiers and observers whispered softly, mindful of the diamond's long journey from Golconda's gentle hills. Through empires, dynasties, and careful rulers, to this grand European ceremony. The Kohinoor's calm brilliance inspired reflection. Kings and spectators alike recognized that the diamond carried history within it. Its facets seemed to hold stories of miners' gentle hands, patient labor, and the generations of rulers who had treated it with respect. Unlike other jewels that demanded attention through size or flash, the Kohinoor drew admiration through quiet authority, teaching patience and reverence. Even outside the ceremonial halls, the diamond's presence remained profound. It was stored carefully, cushioned in velvet and silk, protected from haste or rough handling. Its calm brilliance radiated steadily, a reminder of the enduring nature of true treasures. Visitors to the royal collections admired it silently, often imagining the distant hills and riverbeds where it was first uncovered, connecting Europe to Golconda across centuries. At night, under the soft glow of lamps, the Kohinoor rested gently. Its facets shimmered in subtle rhythms, casting reflections that spoke of history, patience and enduring beauty. The diamond, now an integral part of British coronations, carried with it the quiet dignity of all who had preserved it across continents and generations. Its story continued to unfold, bridging time, geography, and cultures with calm brilliance. As the Kohinoor settled into the British crown jewels, its fame spread quietly across continents. Scholars, gemologists, and travelers became fascinated by the diamond's clarity, size, and calm brilliance. Books and articles began to describe not only its physical characteristics, but also the remarkable journey that had carried it from the hills of Golconda to Europe. Researchers studied the stone meticulously, noting the precision of its facets, the consistency of its fire, and its near-perfect clarity. They marveled at how a gem so small in weight could command such attention, not through ostentation, but through the quiet dignity it radiated. Its calm brilliance seemed to teach patience, showing that the most extraordinary treasures reveal themselves slowly under careful observation. In museums, exhibitions, and private collections, the Kohinoor became a symbol of both beauty and history. Visitors admired it silently, imagining the hands that had first uncovered it, the miners who labored patiently, and the rulers who treated it with reverence. Stories of its origin traveled alongside scientific studies, creating a tapestry of knowledge and legend that enhanced the diamond's mystique. Letters and accounts from across Europe described the diamond's presence in royal ceremonies, noting its serene authority. Scholars compared it to other famous gems, always emphasizing its unmatched clarity and calm radiance. The Kohinoor had become not merely a symbol of wealth or power, but a beacon of history, patience, and enduring brilliance. Meanwhile, in India, the hills of Golconda remained peaceful. Rivers flowed quietly, miners continued their gentle work, and elders passed down tales of the discovery and careful handling of the world's most famous diamond. Though the Kohinoor now rested far from its birthplace, its story connected continents, generations, and cultures through lessons of patience and respect. Evenings in Europe often saw the diamond resting under soft lamplight, its calm brilliance reflecting subtle, gentle patterns. Visitors gazed upon it in quiet awe, sensing the centuries of history embedded in each facet. The Kohinoor's global fascination reminded everyone that its value was not only in its physical beauty but also in the patient, reverent journey it had traveled from Golconda to the halls of European power in the 20th and 21st centuries. The Kohinoor's story continued to unfold, not just as a symbol of beauty and authority, but as a diamond surrounded by discussion, claims, and controversy. Nations, historians, and the public debated its rightful place, tracing its journey from the hills of Golconda to royal hands across centuries. Despite the debates, the diamond itself remained unchanged. Its calm brilliance, steady fire, and serene presence continued to inspire awe. In museum displays and ceremonial contexts, the Kohinoor reflected gentle light, reminding observers that its essence transcended politics and contention. The diamond had witnessed empires rise and fall, kingdoms change hands, and centuries of careful stewardship. Scholars and gemologists revisited its history, studying its facets, clarity, and brilliance. Each discovery about its origin and journey added depth to its story, connecting modern observers with the patient miners and rulers who had once handled it with reverence. The Kohinoor became both a historical artifact and a symbol of human diligence, patience, and careful preservation. Meanwhile, in India, the hills of Golconda remained silent witnesses to history. Rivers flowed past the same rocks where miners had first uncovered the diamond, and elders continued to pass down stories of discovery, patience, and respect. The diamond, though far away, retained its connection to the earth and the labor that revealed it. The Kohinoor's modern history reminds us that treasures carry stories beyond wealth. They carry lessons. Its calm presence encourages reflection, showing that even amid controversy, enduring beauty and patient brilliance remain constant. Across museum halls, royal ceremonies, and scholarly discussions, the diamond continues to shine quietly, bridging continents, centuries, and cultures. At night, under soft lighting, the Kohinoor rests, as it always has, a timeless observer of human history, reflecting the steady patience of generations and the enduring majesty of the hills where it was first revealed. Its story continues, ever calm, ever brilliant, a silent teacher of patience, reverence, and history. Beyond its physical brilliance, the Kohinoor has long inspired the imagination of writers, artists, and storytellers across continents. Its calm, steady radiance became a muse for poetry, historical novels, paintings, and later, films and documentaries. Each artistic depiction sought to capture not just the diamond's size or fire, but the centuries of history and patient labor embedded within its facets. In literature, the Kohinoor is often described as a silent witness to empires, a gem that carries with it whispers of distant lands and generations of rulers. Poets and novelists have used its journey from the hills of Golconda to European royal courts as a metaphor for endurance, patience, and the quiet passage of time. The diamond is rarely portrayed with haste or extravagance. Rather, it is celebrated for its calm authority and enduring presence. Artists have painted it in royal scenes, illuminated manuscripts, and later in modern illustrations, emphasizing its understated brilliance. Its glow, reflected through candlelight and chandeliers, conveys a serenity that commands attention without overwhelming it. Each brushstroke captures not merely the stone itself, but the story and respect surrounding it, the miner's careful work, the ruler's reverence, and the centuries of patient observation. Popular imagination also embraced the diamond. Travelers, journalists, and historians shared stories of its discovery, its journey across kingdoms, and its role in coronations. Children imagined its gentle glow, distant hills, and flowing rivers, while adults marveled at the seamless blending of beauty, history, and cultural significance. Through these stories, the Kohinoor transcended its material value, becoming a symbol of human diligence, continuity, and quiet majesty. Even as the Kohinoor remained in royal collections, far from its birthplace, its essence touched minds and hearts globally. Museums, books, and exhibitions allowed people to connect with its story, reflecting on patience, reverence, and the enduring beauty of careful labor. The diamond's influence extended beyond wealth and power. It became a bridge between history, culture, and imagination. Back in Golconda, the hills remained serene, the rivers whisper, and miners continue their gentle work. The legacy of careful labor, patience, and respect for the earth endures. The Kohinoor, though distant, continues to inspire imagination and art, reminding the world that true brilliance lies not only in beauty but in the quiet journey that brings it into being. Over centuries, the Kohinoor became more than a gem. It evolved into a symbol embedded in cultural identity and historical memory. In India, Pakistan, and Britain, its story is remembered not merely for its brilliance, but for the journeys, empires, and generations of careful labor it represents. It embodies resilience, continuity, and the human capacity to honor what is precious with patience and respect. In cultural discussions, the Kohinoor often surfaces as a representation of heritage. Scholars reflect on its origin in the Golconda Hills, emphasizing the laborers and artisans whose skill and care brought the diamond into being. Writers, educators, and historians link it to the broader narrative of India's rich mineral and artistic history, exploring how a single stone can connect distant lands and centuries of civilization. The diamond also influences national memory. In literature, documentaries, and media, it serves as a reminder of the complex journeys of objects and people through history. Its calm brilliance mirrors lessons of patience and enduring values that resonate across cultures. The Kohinoor story reminds viewers that treasures are not only measured by wealth, but by the legacy of careful work, respect for nature, and stewardship over time. Even in popular culture, the Kohinoor sparks curiosity and reflection. Museums, exhibitions, and media representations convey the diamond's quiet authority, capturing both imagination and reverence. Its journey from the hills of India to royal collections abroad illustrates how a single object can carry profound meaning, linking communities and generations through shared stories. Back in Golconda, the hills still rest quietly. Rivers flow gently, miners continue their careful routines, and elders pass down tales of patient labor and the first discovery of the diamond. Though the Kohinoor now rests far away, its essence, its lessons of patience, diligence, and quiet beauty means alive in memory and culture. At night, whether in European palaces or imagined by children and scholars, the Kohinoor rests, calm and brilliant. Its story bridges continents, centuries, and cultures, teaching all who contemplate it that true treasures are revealed not through haste, but through patience, care, and enduring respect for both nature and history. In modern times, the Kohinoor attracted not only historians and artists, but also scientists and gemologists. Researchers sought to understand its structure, composition, and exceptional clarity through careful study. Each analysis revealed insights into the processes that had formed it millions of years ago, connecting the diamond's present brilliance to the deep history of the Earth itself. Using advanced techniques, scientists examined its cut, facets, and optical properties. They marveled at how the Kohinoor reflected light in a steady, calm manner that was both captivating and subtle. Unlike other diamonds, its brilliance seemed to convey a quiet authority, revealing more than mere beauty, a tangible link to its ancient origin, careful extraction, and centuries of careful handling. Gemological studies also confirmed that the Kohinoor's perfection was a result of both natural formation and meticulous cutting. Craftsmen over centuries had preserved its essence, enhancing its fire and clarity while respecting its natural form. Modern observers appreciated that the diamond's calm brilliance was the product of both geology and human patience. A partnership across time. Beyond technical analysis, scientists also explored the Kohinoor's cultural and historical context. Research papers, exhibitions, and educational programs highlighted its journey from Golconda to royal collections, emphasizing the human labor, political shifts, and careful preservation that had accompanied it. The diamond became a subject where science and history met, blending curiosity with reverence. Meanwhile, in Golconda, the hills and rivers remained as they had for centuries. Miners continued their gentle routines, and elders recounted stories of patient labor and the diamond's discovery. The Kohinoor's scientific study, though conducted far away, echoed the same lessons. Patience, care, and attentive observation are essential to understanding the true value of any treasure. Evenings in modern laboratories found the Kohinoor resting under soft, controlled lighting. Its facets reflected delicate, steady patterns, captivating both scientists and visitors alike. The diamond's brilliance remained calm and enduring, a testament to the Earth's slow processes, human craftsmanship, and centuries of careful stewardship. Through modern study, the Kohinoor continued to teach, bridging natural history, science, and human curiosity in a quiet, mesmerizing glow. In modern museums and exhibitions, the Kohinoor occupies a place of quiet reverence. Visitors from around the world come to see its calm brilliance, drawn not merely by its size or clarity, but by the centuries of history and human labor it embodies. Every facet reflects not only light, but the careful hands and patient efforts of generations who have preserved it. Exhibition curators ensure the diamond is displayed thoughtfully, often under soft, gentle lighting that highlights its subtle fire without overwhelming the observer. Glass cases and velvet cushions protect it, reminding viewers that the Kohinoor's true value lies as much in its preservation and history as in its physical beauty. Those who gaze upon it often pause, sensing the layers of time embedded in its calm, steady glow. Public fascination remains profound. Visitors imagine the diamond's journey from the quiet hills of Golconda, through empires and royal courts, to its place in modern Britain. Children hear stories of miners' gentle hands, artisans' meticulous work, and rulers' careful stewardship, connecting the Kohinoor to lessons of patience, diligence, and respect. Adults reflect on the political, cultural, and scientific aspects of its history, realizing that a single stone can carry centuries of meaning across continents. The Kohinoor's presence in museums bridges the gap between history and the present. Scholars lecture on its geology, historians recount its journey, and artists draw inspiration from its serene brilliance. Yet, amid all the study and display, the diamond retains its quiet authority. It does not demand attention. It inspires it gently, teaching observers the value of calm, patience, and careful observation. Back in Golconda, the hills and rivers continue their gentle flow, silent witnesses to the diamond's distant life. Miners continue their work, and elders tell stories of the Kohinoor's discovery, ensuring that its origin remains remembered alongside its global fame. Even under museum lights, the Kohinoor rests with dignity. Its facets shimmer with steady brilliance, reflecting centuries of labor, stewardship, and respect. The diamond continues to teach that true treasures are not only admired, they are understood, preserved, and revered. Through exhibitions, the world experiences a small part of the long, patient journey that has defined the Kohinoor for centuries. In the 20th and 21st centuries, the Kohinoor transcended its physical presence to become a symbol in media, films, and storytelling. Its journey from the quiet hills of Golconda to royal collections across continents inspired writers, filmmakers, and storytellers to weave its history into narratives that captured imagination and curiosity. Films depicted the diamond in dramatic coronations, secret exchanges, and epic journeys across kingdoms. Writers crafted novels and short stories around its calm brilliance, emphasizing not only its value but the patient labor and reverence that had accompanied it throughout centuries. Even animated stories and documentaries introduced the Kohinoor to younger audiences, teaching lessons of history, patience, and respect through visual storytelling. Journalists and media outlets explored its legends, presenting articles about its origins, its transfer through empires, and its symbolic presence in modern culture. The Kohinoor became more than a gem. It became a touchstone for storytelling, bridging history and imagination. Observers learned to appreciate not only its size or fire, but the calm dignity that had defined its journey. Artists, too, continued to find inspiration in the diamond. Paintings, illustrations, and digital art highlighted its serene facets, often accompanied by depictions of the miners, artisans, and rulers who had nurtured it. The Kohinoor's story became a thread connecting science, culture, and imagination, showing that a single object could inspire creativity across generations. Meanwhile, in Golconda, life remained peaceful. Rivers continued their gentle flow, miners worked patiently, and elders shared stories of the diamond's discovery and careful handling. The Kohinoor's presence in media and storytelling reminded people far and near of the values embedded in its history: patience, diligence, and enduring respect for both nature and human craftsmanship. Even in modern cinemas and libraries, the Kohinoor's quiet authority shines. Its calm brilliance continues to captivate audiences, offering gentle reflections on history and the slow, careful journey that revealed one of the world's most extraordinary diamonds. In every depiction, whether on screen, in print, or in digital art, the Kohinoor teaches that true treasures are appreciated most fully through understanding, reverence, and patience. The Kohinoor has long held a presence not only in royal collections and exhibitions, but also in the delicate world of diplomacy. Its journey through centuries has made it more than a diamond, has become a symbol, a point of conversation, and sometimes a gentle tension in international relations. Governments and diplomats have approached the Kohinoor with careful words, understanding that it carries history, cultural significance, and emotional weight. Discussions surrounding its ownership, legacy, and display are conducted with thoughtfulness, acknowledging the layers of time, labor, and stewardship embedded in the gem. Even in debate, the Kohinoor's calm brilliance seems to remind participants of patience, respect, and careful consideration. Historically, the diamond has been referenced in treaties, negotiations, and ceremonial exchanges. Its presence in such discussions underscores its symbolic authority. A gem that quietly commands attention without loud assertion. Scholars note that the Kohinoor serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between history, ownership, and respect for cultural heritage. Public discourse and media coverage have highlighted its role in international awareness. Stories of the Kohinoor are shared to educate audiences about history, colonial encounters, and the careful labor that first revealed the diamond. These narratives foster reflection on responsibility, patience, and the enduring lessons of stewardship. Meanwhile, in Golconda, the diamond's origin remains untouched by political debate. Rivers flow gently, hills stand serene, and miners continue their quiet labor. The Kohinoor's journey into diplomatic discourse does not diminish its essence. Its calm brilliance still reflects centuries of careful handling, patient extraction, and respectful preservation, reminding all observers of the enduring connection between human diligence and natural beauty. Even in the modern corridors of power, where discussions of history, legacy, and ownership occur, the Kohinoor remains serene. Its facets reflect light slowly and deliberately, teaching that the most enduring treasures are those that inspire respect, patience, and thoughtful consideration, lessons that transcend nations, time, and human ambition. Over the years, the Kohinoor has inspired not only curiosity and admiration but also a deeper awareness of global cultural heritage. Its journey from the hills of Golconda to royal collections across continents highlights the importance of preserving treasures with respect and care. Museums, scholars, and governments now emphasize understanding the cultural context of such artifacts, recognizing that history is best honored through preservation. The diamond serves as a reminder that human labor, artistry, and reverence are essential components of any treasure. Its calm brilliance encourages observers to reflect on the centuries of careful work, patience, and stewardship that have allowed it to endure. The Kohinoor, in this sense, teaches lessons about global responsibility, cultural respect, and the careful handling of historical objects. Exhibitions and educational programs use the Kohinoor as a bridge between past and present, showing how a single gem can carry centuries of history, culture, and human effort. Visitors are often guided to appreciate not only its beauty but also the patience, skill, and respect that have shaped its journey. Its story inspires a quiet reflection on the value of heritage and the ethical care of cultural treasures. In India, the hills of Golconda continue their quiet rhythm. Rivers flow gently, miners labor patiently, and elders recount the stories of discovery and preservation. The Kohinoor's distant brilliance connects these origins to the modern world, reminding observers that treasures are most meaningful when their history and cultural significance are honored. Even in international conferences, heritage discussions, and academic studies, the Kohinoor remains a symbol of patience, continuity, and respect. Its facets reflect more than light, they reflect lessons that span continents and centuries, emphasizing that the careful preservation of history enriches all of humanity. At night, under museum lights, or imagined in distant Golconda, the Kohinoor rests calmly, Its brilliance carries the quiet weight of centuries, inspiring reflection on heritage, cultural responsibility, and the enduring power of patience and care in preserving the world's treasures. The Kohinoor has long inspired artists, jewelers, and educators around the world. Its calm brilliance, subtle fire, and centuries-long journey have influenced designs in jewelry, artworks, and even modern educational programs that teach history, culture, and geology. Its presence encourages creators to reflect on patience, precision, and respect for materials. Jewelry designers study the Kohinoor to understand how a gem can be highlighted without overwhelming its natural beauty. Each careful cut, each gentle setting in crowns or ceremonial ornaments becomes a lesson in restraint and reverence. Artists translate this into paintings, sculptures, and illustrations, capturing not only its clarity but also the stories embedded within its face stelaes of miners, artisans, and rulers who nurtured it through centuries. Educational projects, from museum workshops to online courses, use the Kohinoor as a bridge between science, history, and culture. Students learn about geology, gemology, and historical preservation, all while appreciating the patient work of generations. The diamond teaches that understanding a treasure requires observation, care, and a gentle approach, qualities that extend beyond gemstones to all areas of learning. Even in global art and media, the Kohinoor continues to inspire narratives of patience, beauty, and respect. Writers, filmmakers, and illustrators create stories that mirror the diamond's calm journey, linking distant lands and centuries. Its influence reminds creators that enduring brilliance comes not from haste or ostentation, but from careful attention and reverence. Meanwhile, the hills of Golconda remain quiet. Rivers flow steadily, miners continue gentle labor, and elders pass down the story of discovery and stewardship. The Kohinoor's distant brilliance continues to connect past and present, teaching lessons of patience, precision, and enduring care to anyone who studies or admires it. At night, whether resting in a museum, a royal collection, or in the imagination of students and artists, the Kohinoor reflects gentle, calm light. Its facets shimmer with quiet authority, inspiring creativity, learning, and reflection. The diamond demonstrates that true beauty is timeless, shaped by patient hands, careful thought, and centuries of respectful handling. The Kohinoor is more than a gemstone. It is a quiet teacher of patience, human diligence, and the deep connection between nature and culture. From its formation deep within the earth to its careful extraction in Golconda, the diamond embodies the slow, meticulous processes that shape extraordinary beauty. Its journey reminds observers that all true treasures, whether natural or cultural, require time, care, and respect. Miners in Golconda worked with deliberate precision, extracting the diamond patiently, respecting both the land and the stone. Craftsmen and rulers over centuries preserved it with careful hands, ensuring that its calm brilliance remained undiminished. Each stage of the Kohinoor's journey reflects the timeless lesson that enduring value is the result of steady effort, observation, and reverence. Even as the diamond traveled across continents, its essence remained unchanged. Its facets reflect light slowly and deliberately, symbolizing that beauty and worth cannot be rushed. Scholars, jewelers, artists, and museum visitors all experience this quiet authority, learning to appreciate the interplay of patience, labor, and respect for history. The Kohinoor story also highlights the link between nature and human culture. It is a product of geological time and human effort, a bridge connecting the Earth's deep past with human civilization. Its brilliance teaches that understanding and preserving natural and cultural treasures requires awareness, thoughtfulness, and gentle handling. In Golconda, the rivers continue to flow. The hills stand serene, and miners practice the same careful labor that first revealed the diamond. The Kohinoor's distant glow reminds the world of these origins, emphasizing that the journey from nature to culture is one of patience, responsibility, and respect. Even today, as the diamond rests in museums, royal collections, and the imagination of scholars and storytellers, it conveys a timeless message. True brilliance emerges through careful effort, quiet diligence, and reverence for both nature and human history. The Kohinoor teaches that the greatest treasures are those nurtured patiently, connecting the past with the present in calm, enduring light. Through centuries, the Kohinoor has stood as a quiet witness to the flow of time. Its calm brilliance transcends borders, empires, and cultures, serving as a symbol of continuity and timelessness. Observers sense in its steady glow a story that stretches far beyond material wealth, a story of human fascination, patient labor, and enduring admiration. Every facet reflects not only light but generations of careful work. Miners, artisans, and rulers treated the diamond with reverence, aware that its value lay not solely in its clarity or size, but in the meticulous effort and respect that had preserved it. Even now, visitors to museums, royal collections, and exhibitions are drawn into that legacy, feeling the quiet weight of history carried in a single gem. The Kohinoor's journey teaches that fascination with beauty is not fleeting. Across centuries, people have admired it, studied it, and drawn inspiration from it. Its presence in literature, art, education, and ceremonies highlights its timeless appeal. Unlike fleeting trends, the diamond's calm authority endures, reminding all who encounter it of the lasting impact of patience and careful stewardship. Even as it rests far from its birthplace in Golconda, the diamond maintains its essence. The hills remain serene, rivers flow gently, and the stories of its discovery and careful handling continue to be passed down. Its brilliance links the past and present, nature and human culture. Labor and admiration, a bridge of continuity that transcends time. At night, under lamplight, or the quiet gaze of museum visitors, the Kohinoor shimmers with steady, gentle fire. It reminds all who observe it that true treasures endure not because they are seized quickly or displayed ostentatiously, but because they are nurtured, respected, and passed down through careful hands. Its story inspires reflection on the enduring power of continuity, timelessness, and the human fascination with beauty and history. The story of the Kohinoor comes full circle in its legacy not only of beauty, brilliance, and fame, but also of patience, human diligence, and enduring respect. Across centuries, from the quiet hills of Golconda to the grand halls of royal collections, the diamond has taught a singular lesson: that true treasures are revealed slowly, nurtured carefully, and honored patiently. Its fats reflect more than light, they reflect human history, labor, and reverence. Miners, artisans, rulers, and modern observers alike have all contributed to the diamond's journey, each generation adding a layer of care, attention, and respect. The Kohinoor is a reminder that beauty and value are inseparable from the patience and effort that preserve them. Even as debates, controversies, and discussions continue in the modern world, the diamond itself remains serene. Its calm brilliance transcends politics, distance, and time. In museums, exhibitions, literature, and art, it continues to inspire curiosity, admiration, and quiet reflection. Its enduring presence teaches that treasures are not measured merely by size or wealth, but by the depth of history, the care in handling, and the timeless lessons they carry. Back in Golconda, the hills and rivers whisper softly, unchanged by centuries of journeys and display. The miner's careful labor, the artisan's precise hands, and the ruler's reverent attention are immortalized in the Kohinoor's steady fire. Observers across the world can feel this history, understanding that the diamond is not only a gem of extraordinary clarity, but a teacher of patience, diligence, and respect for human and natural heritage. At the close of each day, whether under lamplight in European palaces, the gaze of museum visitors, or the imagination of those who hear its story, the Kohinoor rests calmly. Its brilliance endures, quietly reminding the world of what is possible when patience meets reverence. When human effort honors nature, and when history is preserved with care, the Kohinoor's ultimate legacy is timeless, a gem that teaches the enduring beauty of careful labor, the quiet majesty of history, and the everlasting power of patience.